This is Newsroom. Hello and welcome from Johannesburg here in South Africa. My name is Evan Hansen. The show, of course, live and broadcast from our studios right here in Auckland Park. Don't forget, this whole show between 9 and 12 streamed live on our YouTube channel. You can also watch it back on demand on that same channel. Now, before we get to the news, Elvis and the team standing by, let's just go to Anine to give us a quick update as to what's happening on social media this morning.
Well, good morning. Eben, bridge collapse, Johannesburg traffic, and this fees must fall still trending on Twitter this morning. We'll take a look at what people have to say about that a bit later.
And a complete update on that developing on the news this morning. Let's go to Elvis for a complete update.
Thank you, Eben. It's a shade after 900 hours Central African time on an overcast Thursday, the 15th of October 2015. You've just joined us. Jumbo Africa, and a very warm welcome. This is Newsroom. Let's take a look at all your headlines. Mayor Parks Tau confirms on Twitter that a third person has died following yesterday's tragic bridge collapse. President Jacob Zuma is expected to officially open the N2 Gateway housing project in Cape Town. And AMCU says that the National Police Commissioner Ria Piecha should not be the only one facing suspension. Those are all your headlines. Kendall Makamate is standing by with your latest sports news. Over to you, Kendall.
No, thank you very much, Elvis. We're going to take a sneak peek into what we've got in store for you, and good morning to all of you at home.
Now, morning, Marco. The catch is taken. Net slip, and India produced a famous win here.
India captain MS Dhoni crafts a solid defense of the 247 runs they posted to beat the Proteas by 22, leveling the ODI series 1-1 as the visitors' batting lineup crumbles. And we'll bring you reaction from SAFA on the banning of former national team's head Lindile Ace Kika after his banning orders by the FIFA Ethics Committee. And that, in a nutshell, is what we've got in store for you in terms of the sports. Back to you, Elvis.
Thank you, Kendall. Let's now take a look at your top stories. Road closures have been an issue of concern since the tragic accident in Sandton here in Johannesburg. We are now joined by our traffic reporter, Rob Byrne, on the line. Rob, a very good morning to you and welcome.
Yeah, very good morning. Thank you. Welcome. Great to be here.
How has the accident affected the road closures there in Sandton?
It's an absolute disaster this morning. The Mike 1 highway still closed both ways. Closed northbound at Athol Oaklands Road in the Melrose area. Closed southbound right at Beclue interchange where the N1 comes down from the Midrand area. And it's not so much a story about what's happening on the highway, but it's really a story about what's happening off the highway. So routes that run through areas like Houghton Estate, through Dunkeld, Melrose, Birdhaven, through Rosebank. So we're talking about routes like Rivonia and Oxford and Jan Smuts Avenue, Athol Road, Scott Street, Louis Botha Avenue out in Highlands North. That's where the real pressure's been, because there's roads there that run parallel north-south to that Mike 1 that's being closed, and they've been the real routes that have been under pressure. The road's not likely to open much before this afternoon, and, you know, there's a lot of traffic that goes Joburg, Pretoria, Joburg, Midrand every day, so if you're needing to do that, I would suggest you stay well away from that Mike 1 and the parallel sort of routes through it. Look at routes like the N3 highway from Beclue down to Galulis, or even from Pretoria to Joburg. You've got the option of the 5-lane R21 to the airport and then down the R24 into Galulis. There are two options that'll get you out of the congestion, but it has been a real mess. Even coming into Sandton from the north, routes like Rivonia Road, the highway, have been absolutely jammed this morning all the way into Sandton. And I think related, but Midrand is also an area under pressure. We're hearing stories of long delays just getting out of Midrand this morning.
Now, we also understand that commuters were shuttled off last night for free by the City of Joburg buses. What more can you tell us about that?
Well, it's good to see the city and the province, I guess, getting behind initiatives to try and help motorists get into Sandton without their cars while this bridge collapse needs to be cleared up and the highway remains closed. So we've got metro buses around parts of Joburg that are free. They're buses that run into Sandton from Midrand, from Sunninghill, from Gandhi Square, from Westgate out in the Rudaport area. Also today, all How train buses across the province, even in Pretoria, all How train buses are free, and Putco buses that run to all destinations from Soweto are also free of charge.
We also understand that the eco-mobility has been put on hold at the Eco-Mobility Festival. But what have traffic officials been telling you about the route itself? When will it be open?
Well, just want to correct something there. Eco-mobility has not been suspended. Eco-mobility continues. The park and rides are operating, the express buses, the express taxis. Eco-mobility this morning is no different to what it was yesterday and the days before. The only closure that the only change that the city of Joburg has implemented is to open West Street and Alice Street through Sandton CBD, and that's in an effort to get those restrictions out of the way and try and get those that are battling through traffic into Sandton into that CBD. So eco-mobility is still on and will remain so for the rest of October. The ETA for reopening is probably sometime this afternoon, but it's a massive job. And don't forget, they've not only got to clear the scene, but there's also needs to be an investigation as well.
Rob, just briefly, your advice to motorists out there?
Well, where possible, avoid the sort of the direct area around that closure and the alternative local routes, because that's where the real traffic pressure is going to be. There are plenty of other options, as I was saying before, the N3 around Joburg's eastern side, the R21, the R24, all of those options come into play. And with the free Gautrain bus and the free Metro and free Putco, why not have a look at leaving the car at home and getting on public transport and getting in that way?
Rob Byrne, thank you so much for that feedback. That was our traffic reporter, Rob Byrne. Now, staying with the story, the company that was building the collapsed bridge in Grayston Drive in Sandton, Murray and Roberts, says at this point it can't speculate on what happened. The company has launched an independent probe into the cause of the collapse yesterday, in which 3 people were killed and more than 20 were injured. For the latest on the story, we're joined by our reporter Gillian Pillay. Gillian, a very good morning to you. We understand that the 3rd person has died. Can you confirm this for us?
A very good morning to you, Elvis. Just to give you some clarity about those reports that were making around about a 3rd fatality, the death toll now only stands at 2. That person that was supposedly, or that was thought to be the 3rd fatality, is still in a critical condition in ICU. So the figure stands at 2. There is no 3rd fatality, Elvis.
What else can we expect to happen today, Gillian? I was asking Rob about the opening of the bridge. I see there's some heavy trucks standing behind you, removing some of the stuff. When can we expect the road to be open?
Yeah. Elvis, since early this morning, when we arrived here around about 5 o'clock at the scene, there's been quite a lot of movement, significant progress in the debris and the rubble being removed from one part of the highway. The highway traveling southbound has now been cleared. The rubble is now on the side of the road here. They're now working on removing the rubble on the northbound, on the highway going northbound. But just to talk to us more about the operations, as I said earlier, there's a lot of teams at play here. There's a lot of specialized teams, engineers, contractors, trying to piece together what exactly happened. A lot of investigations, as Rob Byrne had said, is running parallel. The city of Johannesburg saying they're running their own investigation because they want to get some sort of answer as to what actually led to the events of yesterday. But just to give us some sort of details around the operational part of the task at hand, you're quite a mammoth task. Teams working throughout the night, relief teams coming in to relieve those workers who worked in quite, the conditions were quite bad last night. It started raining. But just to give us a sense of operations here, I'm joined now by Siyabonga Ngenu from the Johannesburg Development Agency. Good morning, sir, and thank you for joining us.
Good morning, ma'am. You are welcome.
Talk to us about operations as they stand now. As I said, there's been quite significant progress in the rubble being cleared on the highway going southbound.
Look, we've made lots of grounds. We started very late last night. We had to wait for the police and the medical team to do their own work, and also had to allow for the Labour Department to do their own investigation before we could start with the demolition work. So we started on about 12:30 to 1 o'clock early this morning, and we've made lots of grounds. As you can see, we've managed to move the major structure that was obstructing the highway, especially on the southbound. We've moved those large members to the side of the road. They will allow us to do detailed investigations on them in identifying exactly what could have been the possible causes of the failure. We are busy working on the northbound now. We're making progress on that as well. and we are hoping that by afternoon peak hour, the highway should be opened, and hopefully in the next couple of days we'll know exactly what was the cause of the failure.
Now, for the viewers who are watching this right now, we can see a Toyota Ford Fortuner that was basically, crushed during yesterday's collapse. What other vehicles were involved? And when one looks at that vehicle, what picture can one draw from the collapse of that scaffolding yesterday?
Look, I mean, it was a horrible incident. There were two vehicles that were trapped underneath the structure. It was a taxi on the southbound and a Toyota Fortuner on the northbound. From the report that we got from the medical team, there were 14 people on the taxi and there were 5 people on the Fortuner. And obviously the fatalities came from each of those vehicles, one from the taxi and one from the Fortuner. You can see the damage on the Fortuner. The bridge was a 160-ton structure, so obviously when it falls over a vehicle, you will see obviously a massive damage. But we are hoping to get to the bottom of the cause before the project can proceed again.
Just talk to us quickly about the investigations. Why is it imperative that we establish what exactly happened here?
Look, it's important because the project has to proceed, but we can only proceed once we know exactly what was the cause of the failure. We are most likely going to use the same methodology if there's nothing wrong with the methodology. What I want to highlight is that the decking or scaffolding methodology that we're using, it's been used across the country, so it's a proven methodology. There must have been something that had failed within the structure itself that was put up. So we need to understand exactly what was the cause of the failure before the project can proceed. So we need to proceed with the project so we can complete it. But we can only do that once we've identified what are the causes of the failure.
And that was Siyabonga Genu from Johannesburg Development Agency, just giving us a sense of operations here, Albus. Just to give you some sort of clarity before I leave, it's only 2 fatalities. There's no third fatality. That person is still in a critical condition in ICU, Albus.
Gillian, thank you so much for that update. Now that is our reporter at the scene there, Gillian Pillay. Right now it's over to Eben for more news and reviews.
Thank you very much, Albus. Yes. Today marks exactly 30 years since the Trojan horse massacre shocked the community of Athlone in Cape Town. On this day, in 1985, security and railway police worked together to crush a gathering of youth who were protesting against the then apartheid government. Sadly, 3 young people who were part of the anti-government demonstrations of the time were shot and killed. Now, 30 years on, we look back at this event, and to talk to us about it from Cape Town, we are joined by activist Salim Mauser. Very good morning to you, Salim. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning, Eben, and hello to everyone.
Salim, it's such a sad day and an iconic day in the struggle of that time. Just take us back to the day, the Trojan horse massacre. What do you remember of that time?
Eben, it is indeed 30 years since that day, and people all over our country, including the people of Athlone, were protesting against the apartheid government. As you know, during that period, hundreds of young people from all over Athlone converged on the streets of Thornton and Belgravia roads, which became the focal point of protest action in the broader Athlone area. And we met outside the Hewitt Training College, which was a teachers' training college at the time, where we protested against the apartheid state and against apartheid education, where we mobilized the communities in the broader Athlone community. And those struggles and protests took place on a daily basis. And we had running battles with the South African Police Service and the riot police. And school children from the broader Athlone community converged and met there on a daily basis. And on the 15th October 1985, we as young activists and young people met as we used to meet there on a daily basis to protest against the apartheid state. And as we were singing freedom songs and protesting against the apartheid state, we saw this truck driving slowly down Thornton Road. And as it came nearer, we just saw these riot police, merging out of the crates and started shooting randomly at the crowd and people dispersing in all directions. And as you know, 3 young people, Jonathan Claassen, Michael Miranda, and Sean Mahmoud, were fatally killed by the railway and South African police during that time.
Salim, tell us the significance of the Trojan Horse massacre and how it changed the course of struggle on the Cape Flats, but the wider South African context.
Well, I think the significance of it was that I believe that for the broader Athlone community, it was a turning point. It mobilized the people of Athlone and it united the people of the broader Athlone community with the broader South African community. The very next day, the same incident took place in Crossroads, and where the South African Railways, together with the South African police, connived and did exactly the same process and action in Crossroads. And that united communities across the Cape Flats, but I also believe across the length and breadth of our country. African and colored communities united with a common objective of trying to defeat an apartheid state who were oppressing and suppressing communities. And all that we were asking was for the right to vote, for an end to apartheid, for an end to racial segregation in our country. And it was a catalyst to continue intensive mobilization against the apartheid state.
One quick final question. You've got 30 seconds to tell us about the families of the victims. How are they doing today and how are they thinking about this massacre?
We are in constant contact with the families. We continuously commemorate the incident that took place 30 years ago. Obviously, every year, and I'm sure that today it is a very sad day for the families when they think back to this day. But the families are resilient, like the thousands of families who have lost their loved ones as a result of attacks and the brutal killings by the apartheid state. The families know that they are not alone, that millions of South Africans are with them. But I think it's also a day that we must celebrate the lives of the 3, but also the others who have lost their lives and given up their lives, so that today we can celebrate the freedoms that we enjoy. We have an excellent constitution, a brilliant Bill of Rights. The whole world looks to us when they discuss constitution making and the freedoms and rights that we have. And often we take this for granted, and we can be proud of what we have achieved today.
Salim, I thank you. We've run out of time, unfortunately. Salim Maza, activist, who is also former acting mayor of Cape Town in the democratic dispensation, talking about the Trojan Horse massacre. A very sad day for South Africa, 15 October 1985. Now, we move back to our story that we were leading with a little bit earlier. Murray and Roberts, the company responsible for the construction of the M1 highway where that temporary bridge collapsed yesterday, said they're still probing the incident. Meanwhile, it's been confirmed that only 2 people have died so far. A third who've been said to have died in the early hours of this morning is not the case. That person is still in intensive care in the Johannesburg hospital. Now, markets also reacted to the news. The company's share price dropped by more than 5% shortly after the news of the collapse broke. Of course, they've been very, very comment on social media. Let's have a look at some of the views that have been coming in on social media since last night. Rujani says, hope the company building the Sandton Bridge is not the one building the Waterfall Bridge in Midrand. Scared of bridges now, says Rujani. Novisutu Tele says, any legal eagles out there? Could Mario and Roger be sued by the injured and deceased families? I'm not a legal eagle, but I'll tell you they will be sued. Jaco van der Walt says, working from home, there's just no way I'm getting to work in less than 2 hours today. Talking about the bridge collapse once again. Then Leanne Manus, our very own Leanne, sitting next door saying, Murray and Roberts only started clearing the debris from the bridge collapse at midnight and are hopeful the road will be cleared by this afternoon. That's our traffic reporter, Leanne Manus. Ayanda Kamala says, the bridge collapsing was long overdue. I saw this coming. Also, there's another bridge between Marlborough and Grayston, says Ayanda Kamala. The prophets of doom are calling for bridges to collapse. It is a rather sad day here in South Africa. Let's go to Anine, who's going to tell us what else has been happening on social media. Anine, it's been a rather sad incident. Lots of varied comments, but what's happening on social media?
Well, even like I said earlier, that #1 trending topic on Twitter this morning is the bridge collapse. And with the comments that we just looked at, we also see people talking, not really complaining about the traffic congestion that they are experiencing at the moment, but they are sending their condolences to all the families affected, and they are thanking the emergency services for the work that they've done. I know that most of them must have worked throughout the night, and they're thanking the Metro Police for clearing this road this morning. So a positive kind of reaction on Twitter this morning. We also see that the emergency services tweeted pictures from last night. We've got some of those that we can throw up, because I can tell you the Twitter community is just shocked by this and what they see. And if we look at those pictures, this is really a tough task that they have with clearing this highway. There you see, Evan, that is actually what NetK911 tweeted from last night.
That's a picture of the taxi and the Fortuna van. Yeah, no, very, very hectic one. Well, this is not the kind of thing that you want to see happening anywhere in the world. Rather sad. Let's move on, though, Anine. Today is also a landmark day for Oscar Pistorius. There'll be some movement. The parole board is meeting today. What can you tell us about that? Alton Hart is going to join us after the break to talk a little bit of legalese. He's actually right here waiting to come on. But what's happening with Oscar?
Well, Evan, listen, we have to be very careful in actually jumping the gun and saying that we are saying there is a chance that Oscar could be placed under correctional supervision today. And if that happens, we will definitely see Oscar Pistorius trending today on Twitter, people reacting to that news. We know people have spoken out on Twitter. They believe 10 months might not be enough in jail. But we'll hear from Alton Hart exactly what conditions Oscar will be living under when he is placed under correctional supervision. So we know that parole review board meeting this morning, and we'll have to wait for that decision or feedback from them. We'll keep in touch with them to see what they'll actually decide on. And then lastly, Eben, this morning, we see that Wits SRC tweeted already 2 hours ago that they are blocking off Empire Road to carry on with their protest. That's the hashtag there. You can follow Wits fees must fall. That's also trending this morning in the top 3 trending positions. They're obviously still not happy about the increased fees, 10.5% for next year, and they're demanding that they meet with Adam Habib, the Vice-Chancellor, to address them personally about what their concerns are. Well,
that'd be interesting if that meeting goes ahead today. There we've got a couple of pictures. People are also claiming police brutality now, saying that a couple of them were choked by the police. There's a picture on Twitter. There you see that's the wide shot of part of the protest. Of course, they were lying in the streets. They were lying in the streets yesterday, stopping traffic. But we have to move on, Anine. And I can tell you that those of you travelling in and around Sandton, eco-mobility has not been suspended there. Only 2 roads, I think one off the M1 and the other one, West Street, have been open to try and deal with the level of congestion after the bridge collapse happened there in Sandton yesterday. Are we taking some comments now? Where are we going? We're looking at our pick of the day. Now, you can imagine there have been many picks coming in. This is our picture of the day. There you have the bridge collapse. It's an absolute scene of chaos. You wouldn't say that's one of the biggest roads here in Johannesburg, the M1 Mike 1 highway. That's one from Netstar Traffic. That bridge collapse on Grayston Drive just as you come into Sandton CBD. Now we move on. We take a look at front pages from around the globe. We start in the United Kingdom, where The Guardian reports that 2/3 of hospitals are offering substandard care. That's according to the National Health Service regulator, which also warns that pressure to cut costs could lead to a further worsening of the health service in the coming years. Then in the USA, the USA Today reports that Israel's military deployed hundreds of soldiers in Jerusalem yesterday to assist police in an attempt to quell shooting and stabbing attacks on Israelis by Palestinians over the past several weeks. Then finally, the International New York Times says a Scottish nurse who recovered from Ebola 10 months ago has been re-hospitalized and is now critically ill. Let's just take a look at our question of the day today. That's what we're asking of you. What are your thoughts on Police Commissioner Ria Piyega's suspension? This is the question we'll run to out. We'd like you to tell us what you think. We'll come back a little bit later in the day, run those comments, put them up, pick the best one, and we'll also have a little discussion point around that. Time for us to take a break now. You're watching Newsroom. When we come back, we'll be dealing with Oscar Pistorius and expert Alton Hart is here.
Good. Boy. Sit.
Get behind Rugby World Cup 2015 on SABC.
Welcome back. You're still watching Newsroom. Now, all eyes will be on Oscar Pistorius today to see if he will be released from jail on parole and placed under house arrest. Parole proceedings have been taking place since August, but these processes have been halted every time. Now, the matter is with the Parole Review Board once again for a final decision that might be made later today. Now, to help us unpack it all, we're joined in studio by law expert Alton Hart from the University of Johannesburg's Law Clinic. Good morning to you, Alton. Nice to have you back with us.
Morning, Evan, and morning to the viewers.
What are the chances of Oscar being placed under correctional supervision today?
Even if we look at it now, and one has to be objective when you look at these things, and I think there's a 50-50 chance of him being placed under parole. I mean, he was sentenced under Section 2761H, which means that 1/10 of his sentence has passed, so he's met that requirement. The parole board has been up and down with this decision. It is clear from the earlier submission that they wanted to release him, I think it was 21 August, that he already attended all the programs that he was supposed to attend. So I think he might, there's a 50-50 chance, but we don't know. This is South Africa and things happen behind closed doors.
That's interesting you say that. Now, I want to talk a little bit about that because these lawyers, they've come out and saying that he's been treated unfairly by during the entire parole proceedings. What's your view on what the lawyers are saying? And then what constitutes unfair behavior in this case?
The one thing that I can think of is that I think it was around about May 2015 when they made the announcement that 21 August is Oscar's parole release date. Yeah. And then I think it was 2 or 3 days before the time the minister steps up and say, no, you're not going on parole. I'm referring this to the review board. Now, I think that by the minister was a little bit underhanded. He knew in May already what the situation was. If he wanted to exercise his ministerial powers, he should have done that way before the time and not leave it 2 or 3 days before the time. I know there was also a lot of political lobbying from different lobby groups that actually said, but this is not on, it cannot happen in Women's Month. So that played a role and put pressure on the minister to actually act. But I think the minister left it a little bit too late. And because of the profile of the case in the community, I also think that played a role in what the minister did and how things was handled. And I think that's more or less where Oscar's lawyers feel that he was treated unfairly. But it's not uncommon that the minister would do what he did. It's just that we don't necessarily see these things happening on TV because Oscar is now a high-profile case. Yeah. We're on television with him all the time. There's a lot of other offenders that is going down the same route as Oscar, and I cannot really say. It's just a little bit for me the minister's actions that I would most probably question why he left it so late.
Now, the Steenkamp family, they have come out and they say it doesn't really matter to them what happens today. They don't really care whether he goes on house arrest or whatever. I want to ask you, if they wanted to oppose what was happening today, what recourse would the Steenkamp family have had?
Like we said earlier, and I think me and you touched on this in earlier interviews, but the thing is, like with the Steenkamp family, if they felt or if they can prove to court that Riva was their sole income that they received, they can actually civilly claim from Oscar for loss of income. And with the release on parole, there is procedures in place where aggrieved family members or interested parties can actually make representations to the parole board saying to them, listen here, we feel it's not in the interest of justice that this person be released on parole, and then they can make the representations to the parole board. It will get considered. Even sometimes they call them in to come and testify in front of the parole board to say, but why are you feeling so aggrieved by us wanting to release this person on parole or not?
Now, just quickly tell us, under which conditions will he be living once he is placed under house arrest?
There can be now various conditions. They can tell him, listen, yeah, you have to be under house supervision for 24 hours. A parole officer would be assigned to him, like one of these correctional officers would be assigned to them that deals with parolees, and he would come to the house on regular intervals. They might even make it maybe less restrictive, where they allow him to actually go and work, and then at certain intervals he has to report to the closest police station from where he's staying. So there's various ways of actually dealing with it. So it's not a cast in stone method of actually saying, this is now you're on parole and this is how it's going to happen. There's various options that you can exercise as the parole board to actually try and monitor the person. Because the thing is, like, what the parole board wants to know is this: they want to know where you are at all times and what you keep yourself busy with. If they can satisfy themselves with any different option or position, then they don't have a problem. If you easily monitor it, then it's fine, then it will be less restrictive.
Well, Alton, thank you for joining us this morning. You say 50-50 then?
I say 50-50, but I think come today, Oscar will still be left there in Kgosi Mampuru.
Okay, that's from the expert, Alton Hart. He says he thinks Oscar will stay at Kgosi Mampuru. We move on. Thank you very much for joining us, Alton. Alton is from the University of Johannesburg's law clinic. He's the legal eagle that comes in whenever we need to deal with this scenario. Anyhow, let's move on to the next story now. I can tell you quickly that Wits University management says that lectures will resume today, despite students continuing their protest action at the institution. Yesterday, students blocked entrances and exits to the Braamfontein campus, preventing students and staff from leaving the premises. They say they're unhappy about the 10.5% increase in fees for 2016. And there have been lots of comments on social media. Let's pick up a couple of comments of what people say about the increase, but also about the protest action. There we have Niatera says they tried to demolish the affordable residences, then they increase the fees, slowly pushing out the poor and middle class. Wits fees must fall. Yes, they're not happy. Sol says SMH not allowing people to enter campus is not a peaceful protest. Stand on the side and allow people free movement, says Sol, I think. Aviola power supply. Tertiary qualifications must be made free. They are not the same as education anyway. Wits fees must fall. Then Kim Tommy says Wits fees must fall. What about us students on bursary? You have to attain certain grades. Being called racist because we want to go to class? Yes, there are lots of different dynamics. Lots of different dynamics at play. Wits must feel, fees must fall. Says, we won't fight your battles for you. Wake up. Why are we losing? Being hostile towards each other. No man. Wits shut down. He says, yes, the students seem to be turning on to each other. Lots of different dynamics. We'll keep you updated today and tomorrow how that develops. Let's hope it doesn't get ugly once again on campus today. Now, The ANC's fourth National General Council has called for the Department of Basic Education to go ahead with the annual national assessments. This despite opposition from the country's major teacher unions. Last month, 5 unions representing teachers refused to participate in this year's annual national assessments, calling for their members not to administer the assessments, saying the assessments in the current form will not benefit the pupils. Now, from our Johannesburg studios, we are joined by Nomusa Qembi, who is the South African Democratic Teachers Union's media officer. Nomusa, good morning to you. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, and good morning to the viewers.
Firstly, Nomusa, your reaction. Are you still calling for your members to not administer the tests after the call by the ruling party over the weekend?
Yes, our stance still stands that SATU, together with the other 4 teachers' union, we still say we are not going to administer ANA. And our stance, it's not that we are against the ANC. Our issue is between us and the employer, which is the Department of Basic Education.
And what is your issue, if I may ask?
The issue is ANA in its current form is not producing the desired results. What is happening is that ANA is a diagnostic tool, and what has happened is that the tool has not come up with remedial action or intervention strategies once gaps have been identified. So what has been happening over the years is that learners are just writing these tests, and after these tests we are informed that such and such a school is underperforming, and there are no intervention strategies to say if there is underperformance, what is being done to assist either the teachers or the learners to ensure that the standards go up high. And that has, over the time, demotivated both the learners and the teachers. And what has happened is that now the teachers are teaching to ANA. You find that a lot of time is being spent on preparing for these tests and writing to the test. And we are saying education is not about writing tests. Education is there to ensure that a child develops to be an independent and critical thinker. And ANA is not doing that. Instead, ANA has narrowed the curriculum to an issue of just writing tests for the sake of writing tests.
Now, there's a belief in the media, I'll say, that the teachers are not happy with the way that they are being assessed within the structure that is the annual national assessment, and therefore the teachers are unhappy that now they are also placed under the microscope. What do you say to that?
Yes, there are no intervention strategies that come after those tests. It's just to say you have not performed. But initially, when it was introduced, it was there to identify the gaps and then come up with intervening strategies. And that has not happened, and it has put a lot of pressure on teachers. And now teachers are now, they just take the exam papers and teach the learners to the exam papers. So it's not benefiting.
So what is your position right now? Are you calling for ANAs to be scrapped forever, or are you only calling for this year's ANA to be stopped?
What happened is that we sat, all the 5 unions, we sat with the officials from the Department of Education, and we looked at this, and there was an agreement between the 2 parties that a task team would be established to remodel ANA. And as I'm talking to you now, that task team has been established. That task team is working towards remodeling ANA. We are not opposed to assessments, in principle. We are, but ANA in its current form, it's not happening. We say we are committed to writing, to a diagnostics tool that will come from this task team that is already working on it.
And where are you in your engagement with the department right now?
The task team is working, which it comprises of officials from the teacher unions and from the department.
Namusa Qemia, thank you for joining us, the media officer for the South African Democratic Teachers Union, SATU. We're talking about their unhappiness with the annual national assessments that's set for the first week in December. Of course, after the NGC this weekend, the ruling party came out. They believe that these assessments should go ahead. Time for us to take a break. You are watching Newsroom right here on SABC News.
Media Monitor, the title says it all. Can we really afford more job losses at such a critical time in our economy? Join our panel of experts as they unpack and monitor all the leading and breaking news stories making waves in the print and social media platforms. It seems we don't have a famous son-in-law any longer. Levi, what do you say to this? An A-lister.
I'll leave this one to Levi. He's the romantic.
Watch Media Monitor with me, Alicia Jali, Sundays at 9 a.m. only on the SABC News channel.
Welcome back. You're watching Newsroom. Now, with our busy day-to-day lives at school, our place of work, we often don't make time to wash our hands, but this could be harming your health. Did you know that many of the most common objects you touch every day carry thousands of various bacteria, even harmful viruses? Studies have found that, well, it kills about 2,000 children around the world every day, and a workspace can carry more bacteria than a toilet. Now, today is National Hand Washing Day, to educate and remind you to keep your hands clean and to decrease the spread of germs and illnesses. Joining us today is Dettol representative and member of the Global Hygiene Council, Dr. Kgosi Letlape. A very good morning to you, Doctor. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me, and thank you to the listeners.
National Hand Washing Day. Tell us a little bit about National Hand Washing Day, and then also about the event that's taking place, I think, at Ebony Park Primary School today.
Well, the Global Hand Washing Day was started in 2008, and through Reckitt Benckiser, the makers of Dettol, they do the same thing in South Africa on Hand Washing Day. They have a school program that goes through schools, because they found that the more effective way of promoting hand washing is about teaching school children about hand washing, and they're able to take the message home. So today, the event is in Ebony Primary School in Midrand, and the star of Kaizer Chiefs, Mr. Letsolanyane, will be there to promote hand washing.
There's a little treat for the children.
That's
always lovely. But now you at Dettol, you did a study to ascertain South African hand washing habits. What interesting facts came out about South Africans washing their hands, or I would rather think we don't wash our hands that much?
Well, it was a snap survey of 200 respondents online. And the study revealed that 75% of those studied wash their hands at least 2 to 10 times a day.
That's a lie.
Well, it's subjective. You can't prove it. Yes. But that's what the results were. And we also found certain interesting things, that a lot of them don't like touching handrails on escalators, etc., because of their awareness.
Yes.
And we also found that women tend to wash their hands more than males. And 39% carry hand wipes, 32% carry hand sanitizers with them.
I'd like to have a look at some of the bacterial facts and objects and where it is, because we put some stuff together and like you to maybe have a look at it and comment us. We know it's important to wash your hands, but here's bacteria. Toilet seats. Now, statistics show that there are 295 bacteria for every square inch, which include all sorts of diseases and viruses, although that's not as bad as the 3.2 million on the toilet bowl. Is that the kind of facts that people should know?
Well, those are the facts that people should know. But the people should also know that from the office study, the office is 400 times more dirtier than the toilet, because we take time to clean our toilets.
Yes.
And we don't take time
we
to
don't
clean
take time
the
to
office space.
clean our toilets. Do we have any other interesting facts here that we can look at, and the kind of behaviour? Now, the office desk, and I specifically want to look at this kind of office space, and tell me, you know, where are the areas that you should be careful? Is it the phone, the computers, the computer, keyboard, and so forth?
Well, the dirty areas were found to be the keyboard, the telephone, because those are the common areas that we touch. If you have door handles, those will also be heavily contaminated. And the key issue is that this is a shared space. So whatever behaviors we have at home, we should bring back to the workplace. People tend to eat at their desks. They don't clean after that. Eat in the designated areas. But also clean after you've eaten, because the crumbs, the dust will accumulate bacteria.
Now, here at the SABC, in our workplace, we have a lot of communal computers where people use computers together. Now, this is probably as bad as it gets, isn't it?
Yes, but I guess the saving grace might be the computers are personalized. It's when you share computers that you have the problem.
We do. We've got a communal newsroom and we share computers, and that's the problem.
Then you might be a market for lots of wipes.
Yes.
But it's really up to people cleaning their hands. Remember that the commonality is you transfer germs through your hands.
Yeah.
So if you increase the habit of washing of hands, you'll decrease the ability to spread infections. So if you're sharing spaces, you should be washing your hands maybe 10 to 15 times in the times that you're at work.
What about, I want to get a little bit controversial now and talk about money, because I know money is not always used for the kind of stuff that, you know, that we think is exchanged. I know people snort stuff in their noses with money and so forth, and we pass it around like it is, you know, like there's nothing wrong with it. How do you make sure that your money is clean?
Well, I think instead of making sure that your money is clean, what you should make sure of is you interrupt the cycle of infection.
Yes.
So after handling money, wash your hands. Because whether the money is clean or not, money can't be clean when it's shared by so many people. So we break the cycle of infection by washing our hands properly with soap and water after handling money.
Well, Dr. Jose Letlape, that was very informative today. You know, these are the things that we don't think about. All the best today with National Hand Washing Day. And I hope that children have a fantastic function there at the Ebony Primary School, where I'm sure you'll be heading towards.
Yeah, but lastly, there's a campaign about washing your hands. Put a video of yourself having washed your hands online, then Dettol will ensure that they teach one child for every adult that does the same.
Wow, that's fantastic. Thank you very much for joining us. That's the Global Hygiene Council's Dr. Jose Letlape is also a representative of Dettol South Africa here. Now, we move on. Johannes Khomotso Patlani says he is ready for his new role as the country's acting National Police Commissioner. This comes after the decision by the presidency yesterday to suspend Ria Pierre pending the outcome of the Board of Inquiry, which the president established to investigate her role in the 2012 Marikana shootings. Now, our question of the day, of course, asked of you to comment on this matter, and there have been varied comments. Now, Bindura Boy says Ria Pierre received a letter of suspension while she was busy making a presentation to Parliament. Oh, that's an interesting fact that we weren't aware of. Bindura Boy. Then Dennis Kravachen says Ria Pierre appointed, suspended by the same person who now wants to check her fitness to hold office. What about his judgment and fitness? Asked Dennis Kravachen on. Spelele Butlezi says why people are saying Pierre is not the right person for the job. What happened to gender equality in our country? Interesting views. Now, our question of the day relates exactly to that. Here it is. What are your thoughts on Ria Pierre's suspension? Keep it coming. We'll put it up a little bit later in our show, closer to 12 o'clock, and we'll have a little discussion around which are the best comments that you've sent in. Now, finally, it's time for Whether or Not with Paul Monare. Veldfires have always been part of the South African landscape, occurring as a natural phenomenon in grassland, fynbos, woodlands, and sometimes in indigenous forests. The recent dry conditions has increased the likelihood of fires, and Tsietsi Monare, well, he's here to explain to us what this means for the environment. Very good morning to you, Paul, it's always nice to have you with us.
Yeah, thank you very much. Always nice being here.
Now, veld fires are a good thing. They're a good thing.
Not so bad. Yeah, I mean, they really help local plants to regenerate, and actually the smoke that actually comes from there can also germinate other plants. So it's a really good thing sometimes.
The smoke germinates other plants. How does that work?
Yeah, it all depends on the composition of, what's in this, the little bit of carbon that's in there, and also how it's blown into some of the plants. Yeah, that in a way it reacts with some of the finer seeds of the plants. Yeah, and it helps them even blossom.
Well, that's nice. Now tell me about the heat wave that we've seen in Limpopo and how that has caused the raging veld fires in the Waterberg that we've seen in recent times.
The Waterberg, yes. What's been happening is that it's been quite dry, and some of the one things, or the three things that are really important for veld fires, for one is fuel, is oxygen, just about 16% of oxygen, of which we have 21% in our atmosphere, so there's lots of it. And then, dry conditions like that. And those are what's leading to the veld fires. And the heat wave, basically meaning it's been very dry and it's been very hot, and that also sort of pushes, or it's rather like a big melting pot of conditions that are needed for veld fires.
Now conditions have been quite tough throughout the whole of southern Africa, Zimbabwe, Zambia, Mozambique, all over. The fires that we've been seeing, do you think they natural occurrences, or was there a hand of man involved?
Yeah, well, this is what you need to remember. Veld fires are classified as natural or man-made, and 90% of those are actually man-made, and 10% are natural from lightning and these dry conditions. So for now, we can almost be pardoned this time around, because the conditions have been really suitable for veld fires. So most of those have actually been natural, in a sense that the dry conditions basically sparking off some of the dry bushes that you get, and that leading to veld fires. So generally, the 90% would not really apply, especially in the Waterberg, but in most cases, the careless behavior of humans that lead to veld fires.
Now, let's talk about that a little bit, because it's something that I'm quite passionate about. I see a lot of that kind of behavior. People in the traffic flicking out cigarettes, tompies, and flicking out bottles and all kinds of stuff. Talk to the people here, Paul. What must we not do, man?
First of all, let's all stop smoking, because it's just generally bad for all of us, right?
It's not going to happen.
I thought you'd say that. But yes, even when you do smoke, make sure you put out your cigarette properly, and don't litter. Don't flick it out your car window while you're driving. Imagine now you are driving along the highway, right? And then your car has a leak, an oil leak or something like that. And then somebody behind you just flicks out the really active cigarette butt, and then it falls underneath your car and catches fire, and there's a strip of oil that you've been spilling from your car.
You're watching too many movies, man. You're watching too many movies.
We're all exploding. But I just want to tell you something really important, is that trees are actually some of the biggest causes of fires, because trees, they absorb sunlight from the sun, obviously. And they store that, and they store it into a certain oil through photosynthesis into their leaves. And that oil can actually burn as much as petrol. So do we chop down trees now to avoid veld fires?
No, let it burn. I say let it burn. It's a good thing. It's a good thing. Paul Minari is going to give us a weather update quickly. Certainly. So we'll release you to go and set up there and get ready for what will be an interesting weather report. I'm hoping there'll be more rain. We had a little bit of rain around Johannesburg last night. The whole of southern Africa needs a little bit of rain. But let's get an update from Tsietse Monane.
Hi there, welcome from the weather desk. Now let's have a look at this and give you a quick update what is happening in South Africa. Again, high fire danger, something you really need to look out for. High temperatures also expected over much of South Africa. But the good news is we're expecting rain, particularly along the eastern side, or the southwestern and the southeastern side, going all the way towards the northern part of KwaZulu-Natal, spreading here into Gauteng. Last night already we had some thunder showers. So it was pretty good. It looks like it has kick-started, and it's going to be moving all the way towards Botswana as well as over Zimbabwe. It's a small band of moisture also going all the way towards the northern parts of Angola as well as over Zambia. Tomorrow, the rain will be just isolated along the coastal parts, but you'll still see some scattered showers over Swaziland, the southern part of Mozambique, and I will go into some parts of KwaZulu-Natal here in South Africa. Here are your temperatures. Quite a warm start for most parts, but temperatures are expected to remain hot for the next couple of days still, so hopefully they will recover. Come the weekend, Polokwane will be at 29, 30 towards Pretoria, Johannesburg, 27 degrees, and Vryburg will be slightly sunnier with a maximum of 30 degrees. The southwestern parts are still cool as usual. Temperatures around 17 for Cape Town, Sutherland, as well as over Beaufort West, George, Riversdale, and Cape Agulhas, also into those upper teens. So nice and cool weather is expected there. Also a bit of cloud cover moving in along the southern parts of Namibia, but becomes sunny as you move more inland towards Keetmanshoop as well as over Mariental. Sunny skies are expected to spread towards Oshakati. Temperatures dropping by just a single degree in some places such as Oshakati or Chuarongo, and even cooler weather for Swakopmund. As usual, the cold currents along those parts are influencing the weather towards a place such as Swakopmund and Walvis Bay. Zero will be at 35 degrees, 38 towards Maun, and again, a little bit of sunny skies expected for much of the Okavango region. The Victoria Falls at 39 degrees, Kariba now being very hot at 40 degrees. Harare will be around 31, and then this is the record-breaking Tete at just around 41 degrees. Really hot weather is expected along those parts. Some sunny conditions towards Lake Malawi as well as over Blantyre in Malawi. In fact, temperatures there will be dropping to around 28 to 29 degrees. Partly cloudy skies again persisting towards the southern parts of Mozambique. I did mention the rain will be spreading through Swaziland, Mpumalanga province, Limpopo, and going all the way towards the southern part of Mozambique. And also, if you're going to be along the Portuguese island, do expect high temperatures, but the cloud cover and the rain might cool things down quite a bit. Sunny skies for Tolanaro at 29 degrees. Rain along the coast, going all the way towards the northern parts. And finally, we're seeing some rain towards Antsiranana as well, with a maximum of 30 degrees. That's where I'll leave it for the weather for now, but do stay tuned here on SABC News. There'll be more.
Yeah, thank you very much, Tsietsi. He'll be back a little bit later with another update, but a man who's standing by in the next hour to give us a quick sports wrap. What are you talking about today, Kendall?
Well, we're going to talk about the Proteas losing their second ODI to India. India were under a lot of pressure coming into this. 10 years ago, they lost 4 matches in a row, and they're trying to make sure that they don't lose again 4 matches in a row. I'm
always suspicious when teams come from winning positions to collapse like we did yesterday to lose. But I'm a conspiracy theorist, obviously. Kendall, what do I know about cricket? Thank you. He'll be back at around 20 past the next hour with a complete wrap from the world of sport. Top of the hour, we'll be back with a news update. See you then.
I'll see you then.
We ask tough questions.
Have you spoken to the president about resigning?
We ask hard questions.
What you're trying to do requires a lot of money and you don't have money.
We ask quick questions.
A quick one. You are aware that the PAC has now been banned by the IEC?
I'm aware.
And you are also aware that it has been banned because of you?
We ask good questions.
Are you an infiltrated organization?
We also ask funny questions.
Is it safe to eat your chicken?
All the questions, all the time, right here on Question Time, Monday to Thursday at 5:30 p.m. This is Rights and Recourse.
This act says we are all the same, we are all equal before the law.
I have a fundamental problem with her saying that traditional leaders are recognized as the de facto owners of the land. That isn't in the Constitution, nor is it in any law.
Unpacking your legal rights and cost of action.
The Constitution starts from the point that we are one country and that we need to have a system that actually consolidates that, but also recognizes the different compositions of different communities.
With respect to Aninka, I know she is happy that her queen in England, she's the owner of the whole land, she's not having any politics.
Chief Mokoena, we will get to some of the other issues.
You must withdraw that Ninka's Queen of England. Please, that's completely unacceptable.
That's Rights and Recourse, Sundays at 2 p.m. on the SABC News channel.
This is Newsroom. Hello and a warm welcome from Johannesburg here in South Africa. I'm Elvis Preslin. We are broadcasting until 12 o'clock. You have to stay with us as we bring you the latest news from here and around the globe. With me is our sports anchor, Kendall Makamate.
Very good morning, Elvis, as well as to all of our viewers at home.
What can we expect coming up?
Well, we've got quite a lot coming up. It's mostly about cricket, but I think if you do the headlines, I might be able to share with our viewers a little later.
That's right. It's coming up with Kendall Shortwell right now. Let's take a look at all those headlines. SABC News can now confirm that it is 2 people that have died as a result of yesterday's bridge collapse in Sandton. President Jacob Zuma is expected to officially open the N2 Gateway housing project in Cape Town. And AMCU says that the National Police Commissioner Ria Pieja should not be the only one facing suspension. Now those are all your headlines, and as promised, Kendall is here to give you all the highlights in the sports news.
Absolutely, Elvis. Thank you very much. And once again, good morning to you as well as everybody at home. We're going to give you a quick sneak peek into what we've got in store for you in the sports.
Now morning, Morkel. The catch is taken, net slip, and India produced a famous win here.
India captain MS Dhoni crafts a solid defense of their 247 runs they posted to beat the Proteas by 22, leveling the ODI series 1-1 as the Proteas batting lineup crumbles. And we'll bring you a reaction from SAFA on the banning of former national team's head Lindile Eskika after his banning orders by the FIFA Ethics Committee. Right, now that's exactly what we've got for you in terms of sports, so make sure you stick around for that at 10:20. Back to you, Elvis.
Thank you, Kendall. Let's now take a look at your top story. The company that was building the collapsed bridge in Grayston Drive in Sandton, Murray and Roberts, says at this point it can't speculate on what happened. Companies launched an independent probe into the cause of the collapse yesterday, in which 2 people were killed and more than 20 were injured. Now, for the latest, we are joined by our reporter, Gillian Pillay. Gillian, a very good morning once again. Now, emergency service must be hard at work this morning. What have they told you so far?
A very good morning to you, Elvis. Just to bring you up to speed with what's been happening here. Every hour we see some sort of significant progress from the mop-up, clean-up operations here. Just to give you some sort of sense, the highway going northbound is now cleared. The rubble there has been moved to the side of the highway. The southbound is also cleared. But before they can open up the highway, which we anticipate would be, it will be cleared by lunchtime. But before they can open it up to peak traffic, late peak traffic, they're obviously going to check that there's no damage to the road and that kind of thing. So a lot of significant progress that we've seen here in the past hour. But just to bring us up to speed with operations, we're now joined by EMS's Robert Mulawutsi. Very good morning to you, Robert, and thanks again for joining us.
Morning, Gillian. Morning to the viewers.
Bring us up to speed with what is happening now as we are seeing it in our screens.
Yeah, at this stage, most of the debris or the steel beams which were covering most parts of the highway, as you said earlier, on both directions, it has been cleared now. So it's only just a few of them which are still left. So we are looking at that we might be able to meet the deadline, the peak hour traffic. So hopefully by then, after the engineers have confirmed in terms of the damages of the road, if there's any, then we can be able to open up the road for the afternoon traffic time.
Let's talk to us about the Fortuner, the Toyota Fortuner that we saw. That the roof has come off. What happened with that wreckage?
Yes, what happened is that you remember earlier last night we actually, that's where we recovered the body, the last body which were recovered from the vehicle. So we had to, use our jaws of life to cut it so that we can be able to get to where the body was, and also, to stabilize the area around the vehicle. So that's what happened. That's why you see it's like that, because we had to cut it to be able to recover the body.
There's a tweet that's making the rounds about a concrete a truck that might have been the cause of the collapse of the scaffolding bridge. What's the status of that? Is there any truth to that?
No, there's no truth regarding that. Those are just allegations which we don't know where they're coming from, and they're very much unfortunate. What we can confirm is that the truck was also involved in the collapse. Even the truck the driver of that truck, we treated him on site. Unfortunately, we didn't transport him because he didn't have, he just received minor injuries. The story that the truck caused the incident, I think that it's unfortunate. People mustn't entertain it because now it's misleading. So the issue is, as far as we know, the truck was also involved in this incident. That's because we can account up on the driver. We actually treated the driver yesterday afternoon when we arrived. As soon as we arrived here, the driver of the truck was one of the people we treated, but unfortunately we didn't transport him to hospital. So that information, we don't know where it's coming from, and we want to communities to distance themselves with that information because it's not going to take us anywhere.
And that's the emergency services, Robert Mulahutsi, just bringing us up to speed with operations here, Elvis. As Robert said, we're very hopeful that the late hour, the late peak traffic will be able to use the highway, that it will be open, and that by lunchtime we could see a lot more of the wreckage being cleared here. Back to the studio, Elvis.
Thank you, Gillian. That was our reporter on the scene, Gillian Pillay. Now, President Jacob Zuma is expected to officially open the N2 Gateway housing project in Cape Town. Launched by the Human Settlements Department in 2004, the project has so far delivered more than 14,000 units. Now, the President expected to arrive there any minute from now, and we'll see if we can get hold of our reporter, Nomaweto Solwandle, and we'll come back to her then as soon as we can get her on the line. So you have to stay tuned for that one. Now, the N2 Gateway development has slowly been gaining ground along the N2. It is managed by the Housing Development Agency, working in collaboration with the national and provincial departments of human settlements and the city of Cape Town. Communities from several areas in Cape Town will benefit. The aim is to deliver subsidized rental and affordable bonded homes. Now, this is a mixed development catering for different income and racial groups. It also wants to address the legacies of apartheid. Since its inception in 2004, the N2 Gateway project has been riddled with controversy and delays, but the project is forging ahead.
Some communities resorted to the streets to protest, and the development project has even ended up in the Constitutional Court. But there have been some unexpected gains.
Phase 1 was initially meant to deliver 15,000 houses, but as I'm talking to you now, we will be, delivering 16,400 and something. And all those houses, I said we completed, 12,709. The rest are under construction in different areas. We are busy in Delft. Delft is a massive construction area. We are busy in Joslovo, as you know. So those are two of our major sites where we are busy completing the phase 1 of the N2 Gateway.
The N2 Gateway remains government's lead human settlements pilot project, and a number of hard lessons have been learned. Key was learning how different spheres of government are to collaborate to deliver. One of the main challenges has been for government and the different communities to work together.
Sometimes the engagement process breaks down, which we've often at sometimes then get an independent person to facilitate, between us if we can't find each other. I would say that's still part of the process.
There were concerns about the quality of some of the housing units.
There is one specific project, the rental project, which there were some quality issues associated with that. On that specific project, there were plans to see how the structural defects can be dealt with so that people can then participate. But on a general point of view, I can proudly say that of the projects that we're involved in, we don't have quality issues.
And an important component of ensuring final delivery is Parliament's oversight function. Chairperson of Parliament's Human Settlements Committee is urging beneficiaries and communities affected by the project to help the committee keep an eye on developments.
When the committee is sitting, they can come and sit in the committee meetings. Secondly, it is also very open that when they want to write to us, they can write to us with their complaints and then we can process them. But as well, if they've got a petition, they can send that petition to the Parliament and Parliament will bring that petition to the Portfolio Committee.
Human Settlements Minister Lindiwe Sisulu has urged all spheres of government to ensure that the project is fast-tracked and the deadline for final delivery is set for 2019. Esley Philander, SABC News, Cape Town.
Now, the City of Cape Town Safety and Security Directorate says it is too early to speculate on the motive for the shooting at Cape Town railway station on Tuesday. Two men dressed completely in black were spotted behaving suspiciously on CCTV cameras. When approached by security guards, one of them began shooting randomly and then turned the gun on himself. Meanwhile, the Department of State Security said they are working closely with the police in an investigation into the death of an unknown man who allegedly shot himself at the Cape Town station on Tuesday. Metro Rail in the province has increased security at the train station following the deadly shooting. Now, as you know, currently today, President Zuma is expected to officially open the N2 Gateway, the housing project in Cape Town. It was launched by the Human Settlements Department in 2004. The project has so far delivered more than 14,000 units. The President is expected to arrive there any minute from now. Let's now try and get hold of our reporter, Nomawetu Solwande, who's on the scenes. Nomawetu, a very good morning to you. Can you tell us what is the latest there?
Well, a very good morning to you, Elvis. Indeed, we are coming to you live from Joslovo, Langa Township here in Cape Town. And this is where President Jacob Zuma is expected to relaunch the N2 Gateway housing project. Well, the program is yet to start as the president has not arrived yet. But if I can just take you back about this story, Elvis, it's a massive housing project that envisaged at least 23,000 housing units. To date, they've only built around 14,000, and that's because there's been a lot of controversy around this housing development with the people that have lived and are from Langa, that grew up here, saying that they also have rights to this housing development. On the other side, we've got shack dwellers that are also saying that, you know, we are also living under bad conditions, so we also have rights. So there have been those two sides as into who actually has the right to actually own these houses. And as you can see behind me, there's a group of protesters. They say that they're here from Langa, and they also want to tell the president that they are not happy about how things went in this housing development. With me now is one of the leader, Mr. Vusi Madidi. Mr. Vusi, just tell us, what is your issue with this housing development?
Thank you very much. Firstly, just allow me to say what you see here as Sivugile Sonele. In English, it means we are fed up, and in Afrikaans, it says heartful. We're fed up with the corruption that is happening. Just to respond to your question, if you see, as she said, that they are now officially opening this project, even though other people are happy, there is also another section or other group there in Langa that is not happy at all. People that are crying tears because we have a question here. We're coming to make our statement clear to the president that the projects that are brought to Langa are only brought to a specific area and to specific people, and that is creating the conflict, the confusion that you see now behind me, because the people that are here are people that belong to those people that have red cards and white cards. That is a proof of people that have applied, law-abiding citizens. It's more than 20 years they have applied. Up until now nothing is said about them. Even in this project, there is a conflict of interest. The people that come from other sections who were allocated here were chased out by these people, claiming that they don't belong to Joe Slovo. That is the issue, because what we see happening in Langa is apartheid and its best. That is separate development, which we're tired of.
Mr. Mandindi, with this protest, what are you hoping to get from the president?
What we want to tell the president, we demand answers. We want to know what is the position of Langa housing database, because as far as we are concerned, the policy framework of human settlement is strictly underlying the issue of database. But as it is happening, people are only identified and allocated according to areas. That is almost a contradiction as far as we are concerned, of which the government has to come and address this issue, because this is a source of what has led to the conflict that you see here. Today in Langa, we see each other as different from each other because of these policies. The very same policies that were perpetrated by the apartheid system, they are now being, revised and implemented in Langa again. And good people will demand justice now.
Thank you very much for your time. Well, that was Mr. Vusi Mandindi, who is one of the leaders of the protesters behind me, who have come to demand answers from President Jacob Zuma, who will be launching the Entry Gateway housing project here in Langa. Like I said, it's a big celebration because it's a massive housing project that will see a lot of people finally owning decent homes. But of course, there are those people that have issues with how things were done in this housing development. But for now, it's back to you in the studio, Elvis.
Thank you, Nomaweto. That's our reporter, Nomaweto Solwandle, on the scene there in Cape Town. We'll cross to a little bit later to find out what is the latest, if the president has arrived. Meanwhile, the Association of Mine Workers and Construction Union, or AMCU, says that the National Police Commissioner Ria Piecha should not be the only one facing suspension. Piecha has been suspended by the President Jacob Zuma, pending a board of inquiry into her fitness to hold office. The inquiry was instituted following the recommendation of the Marikana Commission that probed the deaths of 44 people during the strike at the Lonmin Platinum Mine in 2012. AMCU President Joseph Matunjwa says that Piecha was not the right person for the job. He went on to say her suspension will never bring closure to the families of the dead workers at Lonmin. The AMCU boss has called for other authorities to face suspension. The African National Congress in the Northern Cape will hold a Provincial Executive Committee meeting today to decide on the fate of its provincial chairperson, John Block. He has been found guilty, alongside the Trifecta Director Christo Scholz, of fraud, corruption and money laundering by the Kimberley High Court. Opposition parties are calling for the immediate suspension of Block, who was also the finance MEC in the province.
We call on the Premier to act immediately and to remove the MEC from finance, from this very important and crucial position. Because every moment that the Premier delays on removing him from power will make her obviously very complicit.
We believe that the need to use this as a learning curve for many others, that they also need to look at this case very carefully. That at one point, when they abuse and misuse power, they shall be held to account. And this is exactly what has happened in the case of Mr. Block, and we welcome that.
The Department of Higher Education and Training says it is currently implementing stringent measures to clamp down on the increasing trend of leaking of examination question papers. Briefing the Portfolio Committee on the Higher Education and Training in Parliament, the department says that more than 1,000 people are facing criminal charges. This includes both examiners and students who have been found guilty. The department says prevention mechanisms will include, among others, the use of modern technology. And that's your news for now. Kendall Makamate, that's your sports news.
Thank you very much, Elvis. Welcome back. I am Kendall Makamate with your Sports on Newsroom. Now, India has levelled the 5-match one-day international series against South Africa 1-1 after defeating the Proteas by 22 runs in the second match in Indore. The Proteas restricted India to 247 for 9 in their 50 overs, but were dismissed for a paltry 225 as their top order failed to fire.
India won the toss and chose to bat first, but unlike in the series opener, the Indians were unable to score runs as freely against a Proteas bowling attack oozing confidence from their unlikely victory. Apart from Ajinkya Rahane's half-century, none of the other top-order batsmen made any significant contributions as the visitors dictated the terms in India's innings. As is often the case when the Indians have their backs to the wall, it's their captain, Mahendra Singh Dhoni, who finds a way through. Dhoni promoted himself to number 4, coming to the crease with his side on 82 for the loss of 3 wickets. And under pressure from fans and critics for India's recent losses against South Africa, the skipper ensured that India batted out their 50 overs. He lost batting partners regularly, but his lone resistance, an unbeaten 92 from 86 deliveries, lifted their total to a low but defendable 247 for 9. South Africa made a solid start to their chase with most of the top order pitching in. They were cruising on 134 for 2 before India's bowlers brought them right back into the contest. JP Duminy departed for 36, Faf du Plessis for 51 and a struggling David Miller for a duck as the Proteas were reduced to 142 for 5 in just 4 overs. And it just got worse for the tourists as AB de Villiers was dismissed with 81 runs still needed. The lower order managed to reduce the deficit, but when Farhan Biardeen was controversially given out, India's victory was all but guaranteed. They eventually bowled the Proteas out for 225, sealing a famous 22-run win with 38 deliveries to spare. Samantha Mari, SABC News.
And here's what the captains had to say after that match.
Thought the target was manageable, didn't you?
Very manageable and a poor batting performance.
Where do you think it went all wrong?
Look, we had a good start up front in the top 3 and unfortunately couldn't extend that partnership there. But still, there's enough experience between myself, a guy like Biardeen, Miller, to pull it through. And unfortunately, we got on in soft ways tonight. But a lot of credit's got to go to MS and his team. They never gave up. I don't think they had the best day with a bat in hand, but still they fought to the end and MS played really well.
It was a good game for us. Yes, there were quite a few soft dismissals because of which we didn't score something that was par on this wicket. But I felt, our bowlers, we didn't start off too well, but the spinners gave us the breakthrough that was important. And later on, the fast bowlers, they came into action and gave us those important wickets that were needed at that point of time.
Now, Bafana have just come back from a whirlwind 2-match tour of Central America, host Angola at the Rand Stadium in Johannesburg this coming Saturday for a first leg 4th round CHAN qualifier. Kickoff is at 3 p.m. and for once, the Brains Trust of Bafana is happy with the team available to them.
And this is the first time you see a CHAN camp where you see players are all reporting in time. They call the team and then we can start preparing. We've had challenges before, but I must say we're very happy with the cooperation that we got from clubs. And of course, we're happy with the squad that we have. We're happy with the balance of the team. And we have a lot of leaders in the team.
And staying with news from the world of football, just yesterday news came out that former SAFA national team's manager Lindile Ace Kika was banned by the FIFA Ethics Committee for match fixing. And comments came in thick and fast about the state of the game. Here's what you, on Twitter, had to say. Our day's piece, South Africa soccer official Kika gets a FIFA 6-year ban. It's quite a long time not to be involved in football if that's your love. Let's see who else has got what to say. We've got Frederick Jean Monte, Lindile Kika, who was SAFA's head of national teams at the time, is banned from any football-related activities. And it's quite hectic there that we don't get to see what he's got to say. Matlaisane IT Comp, I guess Lindile Kika acted alone in fixing Bafana matches. FIFA has banned him for 6 years. More heads are to roll at SAFA. The major, maybe? Interesting, eh? And that's not the only person involved in there. Maybe Letus Matebula. It's so painful when I think of these SAFA corruptions. Imagining watching the game for which results are already known and decided. All right, now SAFA Ethics Committee Chair Pubi Kovinsami says since the match-fixing scandal erupted, they've not swept anything under the carpet as they have a duty to the country not to be complicit in corruption. This comes after FIFA suspended former SAF official Lindile Eskika for 6 years. SABC spoke to Govind Sami last night and asked him if SAF will consider an internal investigation.
The position that we are taking is that these matches were played at the high level. They were FIFA-approved friendly matches, and FIFA then caused an investigation to be undertaken. If there is something that is missing in the investigation, then the ethics committee of SAFA, headed by myself, would look into that and make a recommendation to the executive committee. Until we look at the evidence before us arising from the FIFA investigation, I cannot say that in fact will be done. It is a possibility though.
Right, now just a quick correction. That was the voice of Puyu Govindasamy, but he's the head of the SAFA Ethics Committee, not the head of legal at SAFA. And that's where we're going to leave it for now with the sports. Take a quick break. We'll be back with more news. Stay close. Yes, now making headlines this morning. We start off in Sandton. Roads into Sandton are expected to be gridlocked this morning following the bridge collapse on the M1 yesterday. A temporary pedestrian bridge near the Greyston off-ramp collapsed yesterday afternoon, killing 2 people. The bridge was a Murray and Roberts project to build a pedestrian link between Alexandra and Sandton. The N2 Gateway development has slowly been gaining ground along the N2. It is managed by the Housing Development Agency, working in collaboration with the National and Provincial Departments of Human Settlements and the City of Cape Town. Communities from several areas in Cape Town will benefit. The aim is to deliver subsidized rental and affordable bonded homes, and it will be launched by President Jacob Zuma this morning. The Association of Mine Workers and Construction Union, or AMCU, says that the National Police Commissioner Ria Peeja should not be the only one facing suspension. Peeja has been suspended by President Jacob Zuma pending a board of inquiry into her fitness to hold office. And the City of Cape Town Safety and Security Directorate says it is too early to speculate in the motive for the shooting at Cape Town's railway station on Tuesday. 2 men dressed completely in black were spotted behaving suspiciously on CCTV cameras. When approached by security guards, one of them began shooting randomly and then turned the gun on himself. Now, those are all your headlines. The ANC has admitted that the country is starkly facing the prospect of a recession as the interventions by the government to arrest negative economic growth have failed. Senior ANC leaders have acknowledged that the government might have to review some of its policies to stimulate growth. The party's head of economic transformation, Inogo Dongwana, said that the economic outlook of the country was dire and that rating agencies might soon cast a negative view on the country's ability to borrow in the market. Falling commodity prices, the meltdown in the Chinese economy, the crippling drought in the country, as well as the agricultural industry showing a contraction in the last quarterly report by Statistics South Africa, does not also bode well for the country's economic prospects. To discuss this and other factors relating to our economy, we are now joined by economist Professor Raymond Parsons on Skype from the Northwest University Business School. Professor, very good morning to you and welcome.
Good morning, Elvis.
Professor, let's start off with the first question there. It sounds all doom and gloom, but what is your take really, your take from the NGC, the African National Congress General Council, that came out of that meeting from an economic and a business perspective? What stood out for you?
Well, I think, Elvis, one must say that all large meetings, all large important meetings like this ANC Council meeting, of course, had their high points and their low points. It's also very difficult to sometimes distinguish between the political factors and the economic factors. That said, though, I think one thing that struck me, which was a thread that ran through the meeting, was the willingness to have a self-examination as to what has gone wrong since the Mangaung conference, what has gone right, and what we can learn from it. I think for the ANC, of course, it's not enough for us to learn from our mistakes. We must ensure that we don't repeat them. I think that's a very important point that needs to come through. I also think that the two most important economic issues that struck me at the outset was, firstly, that there was constant reference to the National Development Plan, bearing in mind that although it was launched in the middle of 2012, it got its political mandate at the Mangaung conference. Obviously, questions were asked, are we making enough progress? Is there enough visible implementation of the national program? I think that's an important point that has come from some of the discussion.
Unfortunately, Professor, we're losing you there a little bit, so we're going to break it down a little bit later for you. So unfortunately, we can't have that discussion with Professor Parsons, but we'll keep you up to speed with that story. Let's now go to News International. Libyan oil production has reportedly gone down since the fall of its long-term leader Muammar Gaddafi. Now, this is according to the country's self-declared government in Tripoli. The government said that the country's natural oil production is currently at just over 500,000 barrels per day. The North African state's oil output has been well below the 1.6 million per barrel that it produced before the 2011 fall of the leader Muammar Gaddafi. Now, this is reportedly because of a conflict between Libya's two rival governments and the chaos from protests and strikes. Two major oil exports have been closed. Export ports, rather, have been closed since December, and key fields were shut down because of protests over jobs or oil pipeline blockades by the armed groups. Militant groups such as the Islamic State also pose a threat to oil and infrastructure. Western governments are currently pushing for the two rival governments to accept a United Nations-backed peace deal. As the world continues with its concerted efforts to fight breast cancer, Nigeria is doing its bit to provide much-needed information and screening services about the disease to its citizens. Nigeria does not only intend to help its people, it wanted to go down in the Guinness World Book of Records by forming the largest human ribbon with thousands of people in the field and break the Guinness World Record for breast cancer in an event tagged #12KLLP. Now, October is the month set aside by advocacy groups around the world to focus on cancer and raise support for research and other efforts to fight the disease.
6-year-old Karijat Banwo is one of millions of women around the world who have fallen victims to breast cancer. Coming from a disadvantaged background, Banwo found it difficult to deal with the situation as her husband passed away and had 3 children to take care of. Banwo's situation got worse when she was unable to have surgery, but she stayed positive despite the difficulties and is now encouraging all women to go for screening regularly to help fight cancer effectively.
God has been faithful to me. Emotionally and psychologically, I was not depressed at all. I've been a very hardened person. So I just felt my children are there. My husband was practically bedridden at that stage. So the two of us shouldn't go at the same time. Early detection will save a lot of life. But not just, you can detect very early and you choose not to attend to it early. So for me, what I believe is no matter the stage you detect, be it stage 0, 1, 2, 3, be ready to address the situation properly.
The World Health Organization says more women are being diagnosed with breast cancer. Of 14.1 million new cancer cases reported in 2012, 1.7 million were breast cancer cases, an increase of about 20% since 2008. In Lagos, residents made an attempt to break a Guinness World Record as part of breast cancer campaigns by forming the largest human pink ribbon in the world.
I came for this event because I've lost my aunt to cancer, and my mom is also a proud survivor of cancer. Cancer is a monster I feel that we really need to fight in Nigeria, and I was actually proud to be a part of this commission.
I want to see a country where even if we will have to find cancer of any form, well, let's find it as just at stage 1. I want to see a Nigeria where we phase out late detection of cancer totally. I want to see a Nigeria where more young people are driving research, are driving studies that will even generate drugs, medicine, chemotherapy made in Africa.
The International Agency for Research on Cancer predicts that by 2035 there will be more than 24 million new cases of cancer, with 13 million cancer deaths every year.
Now let's see if we can connect again with Professor Raymond Parsons. As you heard earlier, the ANC has admitted that the country is starkly facing the prospect of a recession as the interventions by government to arrest negative economic growth have failed. Now, senior ANC leaders have acknowledged that the government might have to review some of its policies to stimulate growth. Let's now try and see if we can connect with Professor Parsons. He's on Skype from Cape Town to see if that works. Very good morning to you once again, Prof.
Yes, good morning, Elvis.
Now, where we left off, what stood out for you in terms of the economic policies that came out of the NGC?
Well, the two positive things for me I was mentioning was, firstly, there was quite constant reference to the National Development Program, which you will recall was endorsed at the Mangaung Conference in 2012. That's where the political mandate came from. So it's nearly 3 years on. And I think questions were asked, well, where are we now with things like, for example, Operation Fakisa and the medium-term strategic plan? Where is the visible implementation of the National Development Plan? I think those questions were being asked, and I think they're not only being asked by the ANC members, but also by other stakeholders. And then secondly, I thought the focus on corruption was really quite important. And this was also a theme that ran through quite a lot of the discussions. We must remember, as the phrase has it, it takes two to tango in a corrupt act. So there are certain responsibilities for both the government and the private sector in tackling the whole corruption issue. So the fact that it was such a dominant theme at the ANC Council meeting, I think was an important message. And once again, once the talking's over, the big question is implementation. How do we walk the talk more effectively than we've done up until now?
Now, ANC Secretary-General Gwede Mantashe also pointed out that prevailing local economic conditions has failed to address the unemployment and growth levels, which could blossom in a recession. Are we in a recession?
Well, let me just explain that a technical recession for any country is two successive quarters of negative growth. Now, we've had negative growth in South Africa in the second quarter. We don't know yet about the third quarter. We're waiting for those numbers. I think we're pretty close to it, but we might just avoid it. But I think the issue now is longer term. We can't do very much about what will happen in the next few months. What we've got to do, and that comes back to the longer term vision, to the longer term National Development Plan being seen to be implemented to make a difference as we come out of the recession, but don't get locked into a low growth trap. That's what we don't want. So I think we've got to ask ourselves, what more do we need to do as a country, as a government, as labor, as business, to push this thing along over the next few years? Because that's the hope we've got to give to those people who want jobs, want less poverty and less inequality.
Now, there's a number of questions that we still have to ask, but unfortunately we haven't got time. But another important event coming up is the Finance Minister Nene's mini-budget on the 21st of October. What are some of the main issues you think that's going to come out of this year's main mini-budget? And most importantly, that everybody wants to know, will taxes be raised?
Well, very briefly, firstly, just explain that the mini-budget is actually where the government is going to spend over the next 3 years and how it's going to finance it. But it's broadened into a much wider economic statement, and that's what we're expecting, a state of the economy address next week from the Minister of Finance. He won't be then dealing with specific tax issues, but you will be able to draw conclusions from what he says about the public finances of the country and its economic outlook, whether there are likely to be tax increases in the main budget in February. So although it's called a mini budget, it will have a maxi message, and I advise everyone to unpack it when it's delivered next week.
Professor, just briefly, your 30 seconds for South Africans out there.
Well, I think the important point now is that we must focus on what the Minister of Finance will be saying next week. It's an important message, not only for the financial markets or for the business community, but for all of us, because in fact, we are not in a good place as an economy, and we need to see what is the road ahead and in what way can our Minister of Finance help us to move ahead from where we are now.
Thank you so much for your time. That was economist Professor Raymond Parsons from the Northwest University Business School. But that's where we got to leave it for your news. Eben Janssen is standing by with more reviews.
Yeah, thank you very much, Elvis. It's nice to be back here. Now, Gauteng Premier David Makura has launched a campaign called Fix Your Business. This is part of Gauteng's efforts to integrate township businesses into the value chain of big industries and sectors of the economy. The campaign is expected to bring together various government agencies that deals with taxation, registration, funding, water, electricity and liquor licenses under one roof. Now, for more on this, we are joined, the spokesperson of the Department of Economic Development here in Gauteng, Pindile Kunene. Very good morning to you, my dear. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much, and good morning to the viewers.
On the back of what we've just heard, this is a very important campaign, isn't it?
Of course it is, and it really dates back to last year around this time when we were emerging from the Township Economic Revitalization Summit, which was really a product of prolonged consultations with township entrepreneurs across 65 townships in the province. And through that process, we met with about 50,000 entrepreneurs who sort of laid at our doorsteps the challenges that they face in their everyday the workings of their businesses on a daily basis and what they thought are the solutions to those particular problems. So as a product of the Township Economic Revitalization Campaign, we then thought it fit to come up with a campaign that ensures that our township businesses are formalized. Because since the summit, which was held on the 7th of October, the government has made a number of commitments. For one, we intend to spend 30% of the provincial government procurement budget over the next, during this term of office, which was really 5 years, on township-based enterprises. Now, we can't spend that money if we don't have enough enterprises that are operating across the different sectors that are formalized and comply with the certain regulations and laws. But we've also ring-fenced all the tenders that are below 500,000 for township businesses. Yeah. So there are opportunities from a state procurement perspective that township businesses can take advantage of, but they would have to be compliant in order to do that. So they'd have to have their tax clearance, they'd have to be registered. If there are certain laws that are governing particular sectors, they'd have to comply with that. But we are not expecting them to pull themselves up by their own bootstrings. We are coming in with all these services, sort of like one-stop services to all of these townships and making sure that they can actually access those services from where they are.
Just tell us quickly about, you mentioned briefly the kind of rollout, but just touch back on the rollout and then the duration of the campaign. How long is it going to run and how can people integrate themselves then?
Well, this campaign will run until the end of March, early April 2016. And throughout the campaign, we are targeting about 10,000 minimum businesses in our townships. We will be going to virtually every township in Gauteng with our state agencies that specialize in taxation. So SARS will be there. State agencies that specialize in company registrations and all those things will be there on a daily basis almost. We have put together a team of 1,000 volunteers for this particular project, and most of them are young people who are unemployed with a certain level of education, of course. But along with this process, there's a survey about township businesses, because, as you know, one of the thorny issues that came out of the Township Economic Revitalization Summit last year was that we don't know enough about township businesses. In which sectors of the economy are they operating? Yes, we may know the challenges, but there's still a lot of information that we don't have. So we really do envisage this campaign as a form of a census on township businesses that we can build on for the coming years.
That almost answers the next question I wanted to ask you, but I still want to ask you the question. Yes, the census is going to take you a little bit further in understanding, but where is the township economy right now?
At the present moment? Well, of course, we know that the township economy contributes around 100 billion to Gauteng's 1 trillion economy, right? But we also know that just under 25% of that money remains in the township. So over the years, we have seen the expansion of the township economy in the form of the construction of shopping malls, which are basically popping up in even the most remote of townships, where you would think that the incomes are very low, the buying power is low, but we've seen retail shopping malls popping up, but we've also seen the financial sector or the banking sector entrenching itself quite powerfully in the township. And that to us basically says that there is wealth in townships, there is money, the sheer volumes of people who are in the township. And in Gauteng, it's 80% of the 13 million population of this province that resides in townships and informal settlements. When you look at a township which is relatively new, like Diepsloot, the World Bank estimates that its economy is worth 2 billion rands. Now, that's quite significant, but very little of that money remains, whether it remains in the township, whether it's the salaries that are earned by workers in townships, or the social grant monies that people receive from the state, or the petty profits that they gain from small trading activities and all. Most of it is channeled to economic activities that are outside the townships, and that's really what the Township Economic Revitalization Campaign seeks to change.
Now, with the campaigns, the Township Economic Revitalization campaigns that you've been running, what are the people saying? What are the main obstacles? What are the challenges that they're facing?
Well, there are quite a number of challenges, and these are captured in our Township Economic Revitalization Strategy. And we'd like to think of that as a blueprint for developing the township economy. But for most businesses, and this comes from the way townships were envisaged historically, most businesses find it difficult to expand beyond the home or beyond being backyard operations, because there's a lack of industrial space for businesses in the township. That's why we are paying specific attention to providing economic infrastructure for township businesses. Township businesses also complain about the lack of market access. So even those that are in the productive sectors of the economy, they find it really difficult to break through some of these sectors of the economy with their products not being taken up, or you find that those particular sectors are significantly monopolized. But there's also an issue of financing for township businesses. As you know, for a long time, the township economy, and this is still pretty much the case, but the township economy was sort of outside the remit or the radar of your formalized financial institutions. Things such as inadequate collateral and the absence of a credit history that can be proven, and all of those things have always been stumbling blocks for township businesses and small businesses who are seeking funding and financing. And on the side of government, although we have provided since the democratic period quite a number of mechanisms to fund small businesses, some of our requirements have also been onerous, but these initiatives have also been significantly undercapitalized, which means that they couldn't meet the needs of township business people completely. So the strategy speaks to all those issues, and we've already made headway in certain areas, but there's still quite a long way to go.
Thank you very much, Pindele Kunene, that's very spokesperson for local economic development here in Gauteng. Very interesting what you're saying. I wish we could talk more around the township economy, but I'm sure you'll come back and we'll further this discussion. It's very interesting to understand the buying power that we have in our townships. We like to downplay it always, but there is fantastic buying power and lots of economic activity within the townships, especially in and around Gauteng. Thank you for joining us today.
You're most welcome.
Now, just to recap a very important day. Today marks exactly 30 years since the Trojan horse massacre shocked the community of Athlone in Cape Town. On this day, in 1985, security and railway police worked together to crush a gathering of youth who were protesting against the then apartheid government. Sadly, 3 young people who were part of the anti-government demonstrations of the time were shot and killed on the spot. Earlier on this very show, we look back at this event with activist Salim Mauser. 30 years later, Mauser highlighted some of the significant issues of that fateful day.
The significance of it was that I believe that for the broader Athlone community, it was a turning point. It mobilized the people of Athlone and it united the people of the broader Athlone community with the broader South African community. The very next day, the same incident took place in Crossroads, and where the South African Railways, together with the South African police, connived and did exactly the same process and action in Crossroads. And that united communities across the Cape Flats, but I also believe across the length and breadth of our country. African and coloured communities united with a common objective of trying to defeat an apartheid state who were oppressing and suppressing communities. And all that we were asking was for the right to vote, for an end to apartheid, for an end to racial segregation in our country. And it was a catalyst to continue intensive mobilization against the apartheid state.
That was this day, the Trojan Horse Massacre, October 15, 1985, a landmark day in the struggle against apartheid and the then security and railway police. Now we move on. Joburgers, well, they've been on their phones, taking to social media sites to share their Gautrain experiences this morning. Have they been advised to avoid the M1 highway that's been closed off due to the Greyston bridge collapse there yesterday. For today only, the Gautrain is offering free bus services to all motorists. Now, Anine is standing by with what people have been saying and sharing on Twitter. Anine, interesting morning, isn't it?
Yes, Evan, it seems like the Gautrain selfie might become a thing today. I can tell you Gautrain is trending and people are excited that they can get on the trains. Of course, we know they have to pay for using the trains, but the bus services are for free and Gautengers are excited about this. So we can take a look at what they're saying and what they're sharing. Like I said, I've already seen 1 or 2 selfies. We can definitely just say that at least South Africans always see the bright side of things. We see the first tweet coming in here when that Grey Hayston Drive Gautrain sign finally makes sense. And we all know that's the advertising by Gautrain, even if you've seen those billboards.
Yeah, I've seen it. There are a couple of them. Strong Jaw, what a name.
Yeah,
leave your car at the office. Take the Gautrain.
Yeah.
Thank you. Where are the selfies?
They're coming, they're coming.
Here
There we go. Gautrain selfies. We're probably going to see more of them today. But
Nanine, I know on the Gautrain they're very strict. Is this allowed in the first place? Because you're not allowed to even eat bubble gum on the Gautrain. Can you take pictures on the Gautrain? Is it not against the law?
I don't think it's against the law, Evan, because a selfie is never going to hurt anyone. I can understand why you're not allowed to eat gum on the Gautrain, because you're going to stick that on the seat, you're going to stick it on the roof. This is not going to harm anyone. Let people be happy about using the Gautrain.
Okay, well, the Gautrain. We've had interviews about the Gautrain. It's costing us taxpayers quite a few pennies. Better not chew bubblegum on there. It might cost us even more. Is there anything else that's breaking on social media right now?
Still, we just see that Spears Must Fall still trending, Evan, and of course the bridge collapse. People still talking about
Yeah,
that.
the bridge collapse. We can confirm 2 Two people confirmed dead, a couple in hospital, one critically in intensive care right now. But let's have a look at what's happening with the newspapers here on the African continent. We start in Swaziland, the Mountain Kingdom. The Swaziland Observer reports that 2 traditional healers who have been arrested for the murder of Magidi Mlambo have since confessed to killing him, saying they actually wanted an albino. Of course, albino killings off the scales at the moment throughout Southern Africa. Then we move to Angola, where the Jornal de Angola reports that the Secretary of the Interior, Eugenio Laborinho, reaffirmed yesterday that government is developing policies and legal instruments to give effect to protection measures as part of disaster management efforts. Then finally, we move to Nigeria, where This Day reports that the Senate yesterday cleared 18 ministerial nominees, which it screened for 2 days, but deferred the screening of former River State Governor Chibuike Amachi. Very interesting what's happening there in Nigeria. Well, almost time for another top of the hour news update with Alvis, but let's get a weather update with Tsietse Monare first.
Hi there, welcome from the weather desk. Now let's have a look at this and give you a quick update what is happening in South Africa. Again, high fire danger, something you really need to look out for. High temperatures also expected over much of South Africa. But the good news is we're expecting rain, particularly along the eastern side or the southwestern and the southeastern side, going all the way towards the northern part of KwaZulu-Natal, spreading here into Gauteng. Last night already we had some thunder showers. So it was pretty good. It looks like it has kick-started and it's going to be moving all the way towards Botswana as well as over Zimbabwe. It's a small band of moisture also going all the way towards the northern parts of Angola as well as over Zambia. Tomorrow, the rain will be just isolated along the coastal parts, but you'll still see some scattered showers over Swaziland, the southern part of Mozambique, and I will go into some parts of KwaZulu-Natal here in South Africa. Here are your temperatures. Quite a warm start for most parts, but temperatures are expected to remain hot for the next couple of days still, so hopefully they will recover. Come the weekend, Polokwane will be at 29, 30 towards Pretoria, Johannesburg, 27 degrees, and Vryburg will be slightly sunnier with a maximum of 30 degrees. The southwestern parts are still cool as usual. Temperatures around 17 for Cape Town, Sutherland, as well as over Beaufort West, George, Riversdale, and Cape Agulhas. Also into those upper teens. So nice and cool weather is expected there. Also a bit of cloud cover moving in along the southern part of Namibia, but becomes sunny as you move more inland towards Keetmanshoop as well as over Mariental. Sunny skies are expected to spread towards Oshakati. Temperatures dropping by just a single degree in some places such as Oshakati or Chuarongo, and even cooler weather for Swakopmund. As usual, the cold currents along those parts are influencing the weather towards a place such as Swakopmund and Walvis Bay. Serowe will be at 35 degrees, 38 towards Maun, and again, a little bit of sunny skies expected for much of the Okavango region. The Victoria Falls at 39 degrees, Kariba now being very hot at 40 degrees. Harare will be around 31, and then this is the record-breaking Tete at just around 41 degrees. Really hot weather is expected along those parts. Some sunny conditions towards Lake Malawi as well as over Blantyre in Malawi. In fact, temperatures there will be dropping to around 28 to 29 degrees. Partly cloudy skies again persisting towards the southern parts of Mozambique. I did mention the rain will be spreading through Swaziland, Mpumalanga province, Limpopo, and going all the way towards the southern part of Mozambique. And also if you're going to be along the Portuguese island, do expect high temperatures, but the cloud cover and the rain might cool things down quite a bit. Sunny skies for Tolanaro at 29 degrees. Rain along the coast, going all the way towards the northern parts. And finally, we're seeing some rain towards Antsiranana as well, with a maximum of 30 degrees. That's where I'll leave it for the weather for now, but do stay tuned here on SABC News. There'll be more.
Media Monitor, the title says it all. Can we really afford more job losses at such a critical time in our economy? Join our panel of experts as they unpack and monitor all the leading and breaking news stories making waves in the print and social media platforms. It seems we don't have a famous son-in-law any longer. Levi, what do you say to this? An A-lister.
I'll leave this one to Levi. He's the romantic.
Watch Media Monitor with me, Alicia Jali, Sundays at 9 a.m. only on the SABC News channel.
Welcome to Network, a technology news program that also discusses what's trending in social media in and around Africa. MTN has launched its new movie and television streaming service, Front Row. If it's trending, we will find it. That's Network with me, Spumelele Zondi, every Sunday at 7:30 p.m. only on the SABC News channel.
This is Newsroom, Jumbo Africa, and a very warm welcome to the final hour here on Newsroom as we broadcast live from our Johannesburg studios in South Africa to the rest of the African continent. I'm Elvis Preston. I'll be with you until 12 o'clock. Let's now take a quick look at some of your headlines this morning. Johannesburg is still in shock following the collapse of a bridge in Sandton. Momentarily, President Jacob Zuma will open the N12 Gateway housing project in Cape Town. And AMCU says that the National Police Commissioner Ria Piecha should not be the only one facing suspension. Those are all your headlines. But Kendall Makamate is standing by with your sports news. A very good morning, Kendall.
Good morning, Elvis. And to everybody that's just joined us now, we're going to take a quick sneak peek into what we've got in sports for you in this bulletin.
Now morning, Morco. The catch is taken. Net slip, and India produced a famous win here.
India captain MS Dhoni crafts a solid defense of the 247 runs they posted to beat the Proteas by 22, leveling the ODI series 1-1 as the visitors' batting lineup crumbles. And we bring you reaction from Safo on the batting of former national team's head, Lindile Eskika, after his batting orders by the FIFA Ethics Committee. And that, in a nutshell, is exactly what we've got for you in terms of the sports. Back to you now, Elvis.
Thank you, Kendall. Let's now take a look at your top story this hour. Lieutenant General Komotso Patlani holds certificates in management services and management consulting and from the then Technikon Pretoria, and completed a certificate program in the principles of business and management through the University of Witwatersrand. He also received the National Diploma in Police Administration from the Technikon South Africa in 1992, and prior to his current position, Lieutenant General Patlani served for 3 years as the Divisional Commissioner. His career at South Africa Police Services includes appointments as the Section Head, Strategic Management Development, heading the External Training Coordination and Generic Skills Provision, and serving as Head of Basic Training. In this latter role, he held the rank of Assistant Commissioner at the level of Chief Director and initiated and established 5 additional basic training institutions. Now, this is your new acting police commissioner in the place of Ria Piecha, which has been suspended. The City of Cape Town Safety and Security Directorate says it's too early to speculate on the motive for the shooting at Cape Town Railway Station on Tuesday. 2 men dressed completely in black were spotted behaving suspiciously on CCTV cameras. When approached by security guards, one of them began shooting randomly and then turned the gun on himself. Meanwhile, the Department of State Security said they are working closely with the police in an investigation into the death of an unknown man who allegedly shot himself at the Cape Town station yesterday. Metro Rail in the province has increased security at the train station following the deadly shooting. As we indicated earlier, President Jacob Zuma will today officially open the N2 Gateway housing project in Cape Town. Launched by the Human Settlements Department in 2004, the project has so far delivered more than 14,000 units. The President will hand over more houses to beneficiaries today. SABC's Manalisi Dubase join us from the venue. A very good morning to you, Manalisi, and over to you. Manalisi, can you hear me? Well, it looks like Manalisi can't hear me as yet. We're going to see if we can connect him there. Manalisi, if you can hear me, can you give us an update as to what's currently happening there?
Thank you very much, Yeben. Thank you very much to our viewers wherever they are watching us. We're here at Langa for the official opening of the N2 Gateway project. It is a new development which is along the N2 as we are coming from Cape Town towards the airport and the southern townships like Guguletu and others. This project was initiated by the Department of Human Settlement in 2006, and so far it has delivered well over 14,000 units. It's expected that is going to be completed in 2017. By that time, it will have delivered at least more than 20,000 units and accommodating at least more than 70,000 people. The government then has already spent over 2 billion rand, not only on the project itself as of the housing, but the infrastructure. It's a very amazing project with electricity, sanitation, and all the necessary infrastructure like legal parks. As you get into Langa from the Bunga Avenue, you can see beautiful parks there for the legal children. We are going to give you more about this project. It's one of its kind, and it's one of those that is a pilot project. So there will be more of these that will be built throughout the country. Let me right now just give you a little clip by my colleague Nomawethu Solwandle on this very same project. Take a watch.
For the Wright family, the day they have been waiting for has finally arrived. It has taken 15 years, and now the family will move out of this wooden structure into this brand new house. Nomfuneko Wright lives here with her partner and 4 children.
From 2005 ndihleli apha.
I have lived here since 2005, waiting. Others have left and gone to their proper homes, but I was always left behind, and I used to wonder why. Now I'm excited, and I actually don't know what to do with myself.
The project seeks to address rapid urbanization, poverty, homelessness, and the legacy of apartheid separate development. The N2 Gateway project was approved by National Cabinet in August 2004. 22,000 housing opportunities were envisaged. The units will accommodate people from informal settlements and other communities across the Cape Metro area. Nolwethu Mkebe moved from Joe Slovo informal settlement to the N2 Gateway development 3 years ago. She says her life has changed for the better.
It's so nice living here. As you can see, all is well with my business. I have no complaints. I have received so much here, and my business has grown.
But the project has not been without controversy.
It's 21 years being settled in the informal settlement, and 57 years of age. But it is ridiculous, because they said that the houses, those people that they are old, they have to be given priority. But what do you think? Because I'm 57 years of age, but whose priority? But I'm still residing in the formal settlement.
Construction in the area also meant job opportunities. Unemployment is rife in this community. The area is also marred by crime and drugs, especially amongst the youth.
This construction happening here has helped a lot because I was not working. At least now I have a job.
Government says the N2 Gateway housing project will be completed in 2017. The project is jointly managed by local, provincial and national government. Nomaoto Solwandle, SABC News, Joe Slovo in Cape Town.
Yes, as you've heard from my colleague there, Nomawethu Solwandle, people are very excited about the project. It has taken 15 years, and the people we are talking to here, they said it was worth waiting for it. Let's now, as we're waiting for President Zuma and his delegation, take you back to the studio, and we will be back with you shortly.
Thank you, Manalisi. Just a reminder that President Jacob Zuma will today now officially open the N2 Gateway Housing Project there in Cape Town in Langa. It was launched by the Human Settlements Department in 2004. That project has so far delivered more than 14,000 units, and the President will hand over more houses to the beneficiaries today.
The Steenkamps are focusing solely on the memory of their daughter Reva. She was shot dead by Oscar Pistorius in his Pretoria home on Valentine.
We apologize for that wrong insert there. Now, in a televised speech, Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas says that Israeli actions are threatening to spark a religious conflict. He added that Israel was what he calls executing our sons in cold blood. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Monday accused the President Abbas of spreading lies and inciting his people to violence.
Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas said in a televised speech that Israeli actions were what he calls threatening to spark a religious conflict that would burn everything. This is the statement he made to Palestinian people.
These days, the Israeli aggressive assault against our people and its land and its holy places is escalating, and the racism is showing its ugly face and is making the occupation uglier. It's threatening peace and stability, and it's threatening to spark a religious conflict that would burn everything, not only in the region, but also in the whole world.
Israel set up roadblocks in Palestinian neighborhoods in East Jerusalem and deployed soldiers across the country yesterday in an effort to stop a wave of alleged Palestinian knife attacks. Violence has been partly triggered by Palestinians' anger over what they see as increased Jewish encroachment on Jerusalem's Al-Aqsa Mosque compound, which is also revered by Jews as the site of 2 destroyed Jewish temples. Observers say there is also deep-seated frustration with the failure of years of peace efforts to achieve Palestinian statehood and end Israeli settlement building in the West Bank and East Jerusalem.
A temporary pedestrian bridge near the Greyston off-ramp collapsed yesterday afternoon, killing 2 people. The bridge is a Murray and Roberts project which aims to build a pedestrian link between Alexandra and Sandton.
The scaffolding of a pedestrian bridge collapsed during peak time traffic yesterday. The crushed vehicles lay beneath the metal structure on the M1 highway north of Johannesburg. The bridge is part of the Johannesburg city's eco-mobility plans. Authorities have launched an investigation into the cause of the collapse.
We can confirm that investigations are currently underway. We have urged and said to the JDA we would be appointing the engineering company on behalf of the city, that would want a swift report to be given to the city of Johannesburg so that the necessary corrective action can be taken. But on behalf of the people of, I would say, of this country, no doubt, this is one of the most unfortunate incidents that we've experienced in the recent past, particularly on the construction site.
The construction company responsible for the bridge says they are still investigating what caused the structure to collapse.
Our deepest condolences to the families of the deceased and sympathy to the people that's been injured in this incident. As I stand here in front of you, we still do not know what's the cause of this incident, but I can assure you we'll do everything in our power to establish what caused this incident.
The M1 highway was closed on both sides, causing traffic gridlocks throughout the city. Emergency services worked throughout the night in an attempt to have the wreckage removed and roads reopened.
Now let's go back to the N-Way Gateway development that has slowly been gaining ground along the N2. Now President Jacob Zuma is going to open it officially this morning. Let's now cross back live to our reporter on the scene there that's assisting us in getting the story from. But it seems like that the project is still forging ahead. But before we go to Manalisi, let's take a look at the story. We take a break and we'll be right back after this.
Cut! Boy! Sit!
Get behind Rugby World Cup 2015 on SABC.
Yeah, welcome back. It's my turn back in the hot seat. Elvis will be back with us in a short while with that update from down the N2 Gateway project down in Cape Town. But time now to focus on a report. The South African Human Rights Commission released a report on access to emergency medical services in the Eastern Cape. The launch follows a two-day hearing held at the East London International Convention Centre earlier this year. The investigations into the health service in the Eastern Cape was necessitated by a complaint received by the Commission in March of 2013 regarding ambulance services in the province and other complaints that the Commission has dealt with regarding this matter. Now, SAHRC legal researcher Eden Esterhuizen joins us in studio to talk about their findings. Very good morning to you. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, thanks for having me on the show.
Interesting findings. What is the state of emergency health services in the Eastern Cape?
It's a difficult situation. It's very complicated. Basically, what we found is that emergency medical services are either completely inaccessible or they're very unreliable. So if I can just expand on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Basically, there are not enough ambulances that are available. They only have about a third of their ambulances that they need to comply with the national standard. But of those ambulances they have, only a small portion of those are actually operational and able to respond to communities. So compounding that, there's also a severe shortage of human resources. But this is a problem that's facing the country as a whole. There are just not enough qualified emergency medical personnel in the country. And the ones that they do have employed are only qualified at a very basic level, so they're not able to respond to very critical or serious cases.
How is this affecting communities in and around the Eastern Cape? And which are the communities that are worst affected? Is it a rural problem, or is it an urban scenario that's spilling over into rural areas?
Well, basically our inquiry focused on the rural areas more because they are greatly impacted by this. What all of these challenges revealed is that, like I said, it's either completely inaccessible, so ambulances just don't respond to people in rural areas, and if they do respond, it can frequently be delayed. So we had people coming and telling us of stories of they called for an ambulance, it took 10 hours, 18 hours, sometimes even days to respond if it even came at all. So this places communities in a very difficult position. They don't know when an ambulance is going to come or if it's even going to come. So then they need to rely on finding public or private transportation at their own personal cost, and this is extremely expensive. For a one-way trip to a hospital, it can cost between 400 and 800 rands. So for many people in the rural areas, there's high unemployment, there's high poverty rates, they're very reliant on social grants.
That's a lot of money.
This kind of expenditure is absolutely crippling to families. It's devastating, and it really just drives them deeper into poverty. They have to sacrifice other necessities such as food, or they have to take out loans from loan sharks, which can also be at very high interest rates.
Yeah, that itself is putting you in a sort of down downward spiral. The reaction of these communities to these kind of challenges that they're facing, what have they been telling the South African Human Rights Commission?
Well, there was a lot of community members that came to the hearings and participated and shared their personal stories and experiences. There is a lot of pain, there is a lot of anger about the fact that they cannot access these services. We had people telling us that they had never seen or even heard of an ambulance before in their areas. They feel that they're being discriminated against. They feel that because they're poor, they're not able to access the opportunities or the services that other people are able to access.
Well, I can give people some hope. I don't think they're being discriminated against, because Nelson Mandela, on his way to a hospital, his ambulance was stuck next to the highway for 4 hours. So yes, that in itself paints the picture of what kind of crisis we're looking at, not just in rural areas, but throughout the kind of fraternity in South Africa. Absolutely. What are you guys putting forward? What are the solutions? How do we fix this going forward?
So we made a number of recommendations, and I think here it's important to note that while the hearing was conducted in the Eastern Cape and most of the recommendations were made to the Eastern Cape Department of Health, many similar challenges and problems are being faced across the country. So we really encourage other departments to look at the report, to see what our findings were, to look at the recommendations and to be able to assess their own situations and apply them in their own context. What we've recommended is, some of the things like increasing the number of ambulances that are available, including the number of 4x4 ambulances, because in the Eastern Cape, most of them don't have 4x4 capabilities.
Yeah, and most of it is deeply rural.
Yes, so they're not able to navigate that difficult terrain. We also made recommendations about, of course, measures to recruit and upskill emergency medical personnel, particularly in the rural areas where there are not enough people that are working there. And not a lot of qualified practitioners actually want to work in the rural areas.
Yeah.
But we also made recommendations about the kind of data management that's being conducted by the department. If your data is unreliable, you're basing your policies on that, you're assessing your performance and being able to determine whether or not you're improving that performance on unreliable data. So that needs to be improved, as well as collaboration with other departments. So it is noted that while the Department of Health itself can do a lot to improve access, many of the challenges that are being faced actually need to be approached by multiple stakeholders.
Yeah.
It's something that they cannot resolve by themselves, so there needs to be more collaboration.
When we talk about these rural communities, it almost sounds as if people have to kind of step up and help themselves a little bit. You talk about training of personnel and so forth. Do we have the human capital in these kind of areas that can kind of step up, be trained and help themselves?
I mean, it is a difficult situation, and I know that the department itself, they've put a lot of effort into trying to recruit people to perform these kind of tasks, but it also requires huge financial investment as well. And the provincial treasury has actually made a lot of effort to give a bigger budget so that they're able to recruit more people, able to train more people, and able to improve the services.
Well, we have to find a way to help ourselves in the end. Eden Esterhazen, who is legal researcher for the South African Human Rights Commission, thank you for joining us today. It's a very interesting story and one that really affects the lives of people on such a deep level. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining us. Well, we have to move on, as we always do here at Newsroom. South Africa is facing the worst drought in more than 20 years, they tell me. The heat wave and dry conditions have wreaked havoc with crops and livestock alike. Residents are also struggling to cope with water restrictions. In Limpopo, life is an uphill battle without running water. Several rivers and dams have dried up and animals are dying. The failure of crops widespread all over the province. The situation has been exacerbated by the veld fires that have been raging in the Waterberg district there. More than 80,000 hectares of farmland and other properties have been razed to the ground by a fire caused by this heat wave. In our Polokwane studio today, we have the Transvaal Agricultural Union's Dricus Botha. Very good morning to you, Dricus. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Yes, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Dricus, the picture isn't looking very good, is it? Tell us, how serious is this drought that's been, well, probably been made worse by the heat wave we've been experiencing the last couple of weeks?
That is correct. The heat wave definitely played a role, but we had to have a look to see where the problem actually arose since The last rainy season, 2013-2014, we had below average rainfall. And because of the heat wave now then, some of the boreholes have already been dry, is running dry. So farm dams is running dry, rivers is very low. Some of the farmers have to, the irrigation farmers have to run their pumps about 24 hours a day just to keep the crops alive. The soil is very dry. The soil moist content is very low.
Mm. Tell us the outlook for the yield of this year then. If you don't have rain, say a lot of rain in the next week, and you can't plant and get stuff in the ground, by how much do you think you're going to cut the yield for this year?
Well, we're very lucky. We had some rain yesterday afternoon in some areas. Also the affected area affected by the heavy veld fires had some rain during the night, but the very little rain as such, anything from 5 millimeters to 30 millimeters have been reported, but even so, it'll take a long time for the veld to recover. Some of the farmers will definitely need a drought resistance. A drought relief program is on its way by the Department of Agriculture in the Limpopo province. The crops at this stage, if we have follow-up rains, it could be saved.
Now, Dricus, farmers are notoriously tough people that can come through the toughest of situations. What's the mood amongst the farmers that you're talking to right now there in the province?
That is true. The farmers always say tomorrow will be a better day, and that is what is keeping us on our farms. But even so, times are very hard. The farmers are experiencing problems to buy feed for the animals because of the very shortage of other grazing. But the farmers is still positive, and we will remain to farm.
And have you approached the local government? You talked about drought relief there a little bit earlier. Have you spoken to the provincial government, and what are they saying about drought relief and that kind of thing?
Yes, I spoke to the head of department of the Provincial Department of Agriculture earlier this week, and the process to get drought relief for all the farmers in the province is already began. It is quite a long process, unfortunately, because the process has to go from the Provincial Department of Agriculture to the National Department of Agriculture to Treasury, and then all the way back, because there's no sort of money available. It is money that must be made available by Treasury.
And the animals, are you starting to lose lots of animals now because of the drought?
There's no reports of animals yet died because of the drought, but some of the animals is in a very poor condition, especially if we look at the animals and the livestock in the communal areas.
Just quickly before we wrap up, Dricus, tell me about the latest about the fires there in the Waterberg. Is it still raging, and how's it affecting farmers there?
In the Waterberg, most of the fires has been put down. The fire was started by lightning last Friday. It was driven by very heavy winds at the drought. The working on fire groups, they did not have all the technical support that was necessary for them to fight the fire. As I said, there was some rain, but it will take some time for the veld to recover. But the farmers are positive, and we will go ahead.
Dricus, I thank you very much for joining us here this morning. That is from the Transvaal Agricultural Union's representative. That was Mr. Dricus Botha telling us about how difficult it is in the northern parts of the country following weeks and weeks of heat waves, being lashed by it, veld fires. We've seen the like, and of course the drought is the worst it's been since 1992. That is 23 years ago now. I can tell you it's really difficult, but he says the farmers, they're hanging tough, and they will endeavour. They'll get through it. The rains have just started to trickle in over the last 24 hours or so, and the outlook into the weekend looks good. Looks like we might have some rain coming in. Paul will give us a complete weather update at the end of the hour. Time for us now to take a break. When we return, Elvis will give us an update, and Kendall will give us a complete wrap of the day's sports news. See you later.
Media Monitor. The title says it all. Can we really afford more job losses at such a critical time in our economy? Join our panel of experts as they unpack and monitor all the leading and breaking news stories making waves in the print and social media platforms. It seems we don't have a famous son-in-law any longer. Levi, what do you say to this? An A-lister.
I'll leave this one to Levi. He's the romantic.
Watch Media Monitor with me, Alicia Jali, Sundays at 9 a.m. only on the SABC News channel.
Health Talk, your show on health practice.
The people being empowered with knowledge so that they can change their behavior and reduce their risk of being sick.
How serious is stress at work?
If we don't address workplace stress, that negative stress, then it can lead to burnout and it can lead to depression.
How does absentees affect companies?
The one that's really problematic for employers is the one that is unscheduled.
How can companies organize their wellness program?
Health promotion mustn't just be a one-size-fits-all type of approach. It must be customized based on understanding of the unique needs of that particular organization.
For health tips that will help you to adopt healthy living with Dr. Sillo Mutawung on Health Talk every Saturday.
Let's now recap your stories making headlines this morning. Roads into Sandton are expected to be gridlocked this morning following the bridge collapse on the M1 yesterday. A temporary pedestrian bridge near the Greyston off-ramp collapsed yesterday afternoon, killing 2 people. The bridge was a Murray and Roberts project to build a pedestrian link between Alexandra and Sandton. The N2 Gateway development has slowly been gaining ground along the N2. It's managed by the Housing Development Agency, working in collaboration with the national and provincial departments of human settlements and the city of Cape Town. Communities from several areas in Cape Town will benefit. The aim is to deliver subsidized rental and affordable bonded houses, and this will be launched by President Jacob Zuma. The Association of Mine Workers and Construction Union, AMCU, says that the National Police Commissioner, Ria Piecha, should not be the only one facing suspension. Piecha has been suspended by President Jacob Zuma pending a board of inquiry into her fitness to hold office. And the City of Cape Town's Safety and Security Directorate says it's too early to speculate on the motive for the shooting at Cape Town's railway station on Tuesday. 2 men dressed completely in black were spotted behaving suspiciously on CCTV cameras. When approached by security guards, one of them began shooting randomly and then turned the gun on himself. Now that's all the headlines we have for you. We'll take a break and we'll be right back after that.
Technology is all around us and is improving lives across Africa, like how young Nigerians are connecting to the internet. There are doctors finding new ways to save lives in Cameroon, and the South African public transport system that is now getting Wi-Fi. We have gadgets, apps and loads more, some of which play a big role in Africa's growth. A huge part of this African growth is technological innovation. To find out a bit more about social media and technology news from here in Africa and abroad, join me, Phumelele Zondi, every Sunday at 7:30 p.m. on SABC News.
This is Rights and Recourse.
This act says we are all the same, we are all equal before the law.
I have a fundamental problem with her saying that traditional leaders are recognized as the de facto owners of the land. that isn't in the Constitution, nor is it in any law.
Unpacking your legal rights and cost of action.
The Constitution starts from the point that we are one country and that we need to have a system that actually consolidates that, but also recognizes the different compositions of different communities.
With respect to Aninka, I know she is happy that her queen in England, she's the owner of the whole land, she's not having any politics.
Chief Mokoena, we will get to some of the other issues.
You must withdraw that Aninka's Queen of England. Please, that's completely unacceptable.
That's Rights and Recourse, Sundays at 2 p.m. on the SABC News channel.
Media Monitor, the title says it all. Can we really afford more job losses at such a critical time in our economy? Join our panel of experts as they unpack and monitor all the leading and breaking news stories making waves in the print and social media platforms. It seems we don't have a famous son-in-law any longer. Levi, what do you say to this? An A-lister.
I'll leave this one to Levi. He's the romantic.
Watch Media Monitor with me, Alicia Jali, Sundays at 9 a.m. only on the SABC News channel.
The launch of the N2 Gateway project, and Nomawethu Solwandle earlier spoke to Eben Janssen about the project.
Well, a very good morning to you, Eben. We are coming to you live from Joe Slovo in Langa Township. And this is where President Jacob Zuma is expected to officially launch the N2 Gateway housing project. This is a massive housing project, Eben, I must say, and it was a pilot project that started in 2004. So there are a lot of people that are excited that will be moving into their homes today. But there's been a lot of controversy around this housing project with people that are still living in shacks and people that are still backyard dwellers saying having trouble to establish who is the rightful owners of these houses. But joining me now to tell me about the overall project, we are now joined by the acting DG of Human Settlements, Mr. Mulelo Changane. Thank you so much for joining us, sir.
Morning, Nomawethu, and morning to SABC viewers.
Now, I've just briefly said that there's been a lot of controversy around this housing development, but I know that there's local, provincial and national government at work here. How are you taking this forward?
Nomawethu, this is a massive project indeed. This is a 1.8 billion rands investment. In Joslovo alone, here we're talking about 400 million rands investment. This precinct. There are other precincts in Delft, in Crossroads, in Boysdown, in New Rust. This initiative was started in 2004, conceptualized by Minister Sisulu and her cabinet colleagues. It is an IGR project indeed, an intergovernmental relations project. You have the three spheres of government involved in this project: the national government, the provincial government, the municipal, the local government. You will see it when we get to the bigger program during the course of the day, that you have the president here, you have the premier of the Western Cape, you have Minister Sisulu, you have other ministers who were MECs during when this project was initiated in 2004. Yes, indeed, it is a massive project.
Also, I've spoken about the controversies with other people not entirely happy. How is government dealing with this? Because I know this was a pilot project. And also, are you going to be taking this idea to other provinces as well? Because housing is a major issue in the country.
Remember, in 2004, we introduced the Breaking New Ground policy, which talks about social integration, spatial integration, economic integration. So we use this project as a pilot that can be replicated in other provinces. You do have this in Eastern Cape. There's a project called Zanemvula. We've started with Konobia in KZN. There are other initiatives, Cosmo City in Gauteng. So there are other initiatives that were started by Minister Sisulu and her cabinet colleagues as early as 2005. We will be making an announcement soon of about 77 catalytic projects which will be implemented throughout the country. But this was a pilot project. Now we are not piloting. We know what to do. We are not doing a trial and error anymore. We understand how to manage some of the challenges. Every housing project has its own challenges, but the challenges are there to be managed.
23,000 units envisaged. To date, we've built about 14,000. Because of the challenges and the delays, what have you learned out of this? And you speak that there are challenges, but what have we gotten out of this pilot project?
This particular project, it has taught us a lot of lessons. As we speak, we have a standard operating procedure on how to upgrade informal settlements projects. You can see it in all the areas where we're doing in-situ upgrading or informal settlements upgrading. We got quite a number of lessons out of this project: how to manage beneficiaries, how to manage constructions, how to do quality assurance, and how to deal with communities in general. So we received quite a number of lessons out of this particular project, and we're doing it in other areas, in KZN, in Eastern Cape, in Limpopo, in Gauteng. But we learn all of those processes of how to manage informal settlements upgrading from this project. Remember, arguably, informal settlements upgrading program is a very tedious and time-consuming program because you have to count the dwellings, you have to count beneficiaries, you have to do geotech assessments, you have to do a wide variety of activities before you can lay foundation, you can put the slabs. So we've gathered all of those lessons from the N2 Gateway project.
Not just in the Western Cape alone, the housing backlog stands at more than 500,000. Just very, very briefly, Mr. Changane, how are we dealing with this housing issue countrywide? Very briefly.
What we're trying to do is to prioritize housing and also to target the needy. It's not that we're going to target everyone. Remember, we've got a wide variety of programs. We have about 33 programs because there's no one-size-fits-all. We have informal settlements upgrading program. We have integrated residential development program. We have FLISP program, which is called Financial Linked Individual Subsidy Program, and it targets people who earn between 3,500 and 15,000. So we have 33 programs that are responding to different needs because people have different needs. There are those who want to rent, and there are those who want to own. There are those who need a site and say, if you give me a site, I will build a house for myself. So we're not adopting a one-size-fits-all approach. We have a wide variety of programs that respond to the needs of our communities.
Thank you very much for your time. Well, that was Mr. Mulelo Changane, who is the acting DG for Department of Human Settlements, speaking to us about the launch of the N2 Gateway housing project that President Jacob Zuma is expected to do later on this morning. With that, it's back to you in the studio, Eben.
Thank you very much, Nomoetu, for putting that package together. It is me, Kendall Makamat, and I've got your sports. We talk rugby, top of our stories in this sports hour. We catch up with Simon Burke, who's at Twickenham in London, at the venue for Saturday's quarter-final clash between the Springboks and Wales this coming Saturday. Simon, I hope you're still there, and thank you very much for being patient.
Yes, Kendall, how are you doing? From a chilly London, just outside the Twickenham Rugby Stadium.
Now, we really are enjoying the fact that you're still here. We are quite busy with quite a lot of projects that the President is busy on down here and in Cape Town. We want to get from you, Simon, the latest that's happening at the Springbok camp after the announcement yesterday.
Well, the dust is settling after the squad announcement. It's, Heineke Meyer's biggest team announcement he's ever had to make in his career for the biggest match of his career. And just that one change, obviously, J.P. Peterson coming back from injury, and he slots in a wing together with Brian Habana. And this is a settled team. This is a team that's quietly confident. I think their confidence took one big knock with their loss to Japan, but that's made them a more, let's say, settled team in terms of what they have to do. It was the jolt that they needed, and now they've kind of, gone back and reaffirmed what it is to play Springbok rugby. So, yes, there's a lot on the line against Wales. but they're trying not to overthink it. They're trying not to make the Welsh team out to be this big boogeyman side that beat them in November. They're trying to just put things in perspective and make sure that they play the perfect game on Saturday at Twickenham.
Right now, Simon, Jean de Villiers is back with the team after his surgery 2 weeks ago. Have you had a chance to speak to him and get his thoughts on the role he's going to be playing now?
Well, he's there as a consultant. He's there. It's basically in the Springbok side, it's all hands on deck type mentality. That's what they need. And obviously, as the captain, he was one of the main decision makers going into the side, going into the tournament. So his insights are invaluable. I don't think he's going to be all that vocal. He's just there in a supporting role for Meyer, but you know, there cannot be a case of too many cooks in the kitchen, basically. So it's just a case of him being there and keeping the team element alive. And from what we've seen of him at training, he's there as a supporter, basically, and somebody to offer support to the young backline players, especially the likes of Jesse Creel, Damien Delendi, Jan Serfontein. Those are the guys that are going to be talking to him quietly and getting his insight and having him, you know, G them up for this match because the Welsh midfield, they're a massive midfield. So it's going to be one hell of a day at the office for the Springbok centres.
Just a quick one, Simon. The English public, are they still interested in this tournament after their team were kicked out?
Oh, that's a weird one too. Yeah, they sort of are and they sort of aren't. I think the people that love rugby in England are definitely following the game. And obviously you have touring fans who are coming over. So there is still an element of interest. Is it the wider interest from people who just kind of surf through the TV channels and see, oh, well, the Rugby World Cup's on, let's have a look. And, oh, England's playing, this should be interesting. No, there's none of that anymore. It's basically your hardcore rugby population. And that's why it's probably best that the tournament has now come back down to London and into Cardiff, the two, you know, heartlands of rugby on the British Isles. So they won't have any stretch to get support for that. But has it captured the wider audience? No, I think that's gone. They just consign themselves to the fact that, you know, England blunder when it comes to these big tournaments, football, cricket, and now rugby joins that trio.
Simon, thank you very much. I'm going to leave you be to carry on with the work that you were doing out there in London at Twickenham venue where they'll be playing. Thanks for joining us and hope you have a good day. Now, that was Simon Burke, our SABC reporter, embedded with the Springbok squad while they're out at the World Cup. And India has levelled the 5-match one-day international series against South Africa 1-1 after defeating the Proteas by 22 runs in the second match in Indore. The Proteas restricted India to 247 for 9 in their 50 overs, but were dismissed for a paltry 225 as their top order failed to fire.
India won the toss and chose to bat first, but unlike in the series opener, the Indians were unable to score runs as freely against a Proteas bowling attack oozing confidence from their unlikely victory. Apart from Ajinkya Rahane's half-century, none of the other top-order batsmen made any significant contributions as the visitors dictated the terms in India's innings. As is often the case when the Indians have their backs to the wall, it's their captain, Mahendra Singh Dhoni, who finds a way through. Dhoni promoted himself to number 4, coming to the crease with his side on 82 for the loss of 3 wickets. And under pressure from fans and critics for India's recent losses against South Africa, the skipper ensured that India batted out their 50 overs. He lost batting partners regularly, but his lone resistance, an unbeaten 92 from 86 deliveries, lifted their total to a low but defendable 247 for 9. South Africa made a solid start to their chase with most of the top order pitching in. They were cruising on 134 for 2 before India's bowlers brought them right back into the contest. JP Duminy departed for 36, Faf du Plessis for 51 and a struggling David Miller for a duck as the Proteas were reduced to 142 for 5 in just 4 overs. And it just got worse for the tourists as AB de Villiers was dismissed with 81 runs still needed. The lower order managed to reduce the deficit, but when Farhan Biardin was controversially given out, India's victory was all but guaranteed. They eventually bowled the Proteas out for 225, sealing a famous 22-run win with 38 deliveries to spare. Samantha Mari, SABC News.
Well, thank you very much to Kendall Mahamate for that sports update. Now, I can tell you we've got a developing story right now. President Jacob Zuma will shortly officially open the N2 Gateway project in Cape Town, launched by the Human Settlements Department in 2004. The project has so far delivered more than 14,000 units. President Zuma will hand over more houses to beneficiaries today. Let's go to Manalisi Dubasi directly. It's goodbye from all of us here at the Newsroom studio.
Thank you very much, and welcome again to the N2 Gateway Housing Project. The President has just handed over 4 units earlier today, this morning, to the beneficiaries of these projects. As I said earlier on to those who were not around that time, we said that there are already 14 or more than 14,000 units that have been built in this project. It's part of a pilot that will be taking place throughout the country, trying to reduce the housing backlog, which is stand at well over 2 million and still counting, because there are lots and lots of South Africans who are coming into the housing market. And right now we are at the official opening, the official segment of this process, and we will be taking you inside where the President will be delivering a keynote address. He's accompanied by some dignitaries, including the Minister of Sanitation, Ms. Nomvula Mukonyane. The Premier of the Western Cape is also here, so is the Deputy Minister of Housing or of Human Settlement. Unfortunately, the Minister herself is not here because of the bereavement at her family, but the procedures will be beginning at any time from now. And just maybe to recap and maybe give you a little bit of background about this project. You'd remember that we've always been here every December in this area in Langa Township, where there were shacks before, and they would be burning all the time around December time, when it's summertime in the Western Cape, and people would lose their livelihoods and everything in between. Now that has come to an end with this kind of project. Altogether, the Department of Human Settlement, the government, national government, in conjunction with the provincial and local government, are working together to build ultimately over 20,000 units that will accommodate more than 70,000 people. So they are trying to undo the backlog that I've just told you about. This is part of a pilot project, as I said. Other projects are taking place in the Eastern Cape, in Mpumalanga, KwaZulu-Natal, and other provinces. All the so-called men's hostel from the apartheid past are going to be revamped to become the mixed family units, where people can sit there nearer to the towns, nearer to their facilities such as transportation, their working places, and so on. It's part of the government, if you like, of the National Development Plan. This whole process has been envisaged in that plan. And we will be taking you inside at any time from now. We hope that between the Premier of the Western Cape or the Deputy Minister of Human Settlement will be welcoming the guests and kick-starting the formal proceedings. But right now, it is such a great thing to see people here, very happy that some of them in more than 20 years, they've not had housing or formal housing units, that it will be for the first time in their lives, some of them, that they will be having these housing units. We'll be with you shortly. Let us. And